are not appropriate. I don't have an answer, but I sure see a problem. And so I think we all need to work on it. And it's not okay with me for the applicant to simply say, I'm going to bring, hundreds of people here, and it's not my problem what they do once they leave my property. It's a tricky situation, and we all need to work together positively on it. And we need to do education, I think, with the customers who show up. I think that's probably the key to this, because we're trying to control people's behavior in an environment where there is really no control other than themselves. It's a tough one. So I hope we can get creative on this and all think about it, and not just assume it's going to take care of itself. Like I said, I don't have the answers, but I sure see the question.
I'd love to respond to that. I hope you didn't take my comment as negative. We certainly respect what you are saying, and the whole idea of communicating with the forest is to find out the best solution for things like that. So we are absolutely open to that, and we'll continue to communicate with Sean and his co-workers and find out the best solution for that particular issue.
Now, the trouble with communicating with the forest is they have so few resources, and they have so much land to take care of.
Do you possibly have another resource that we can talk to then?
Well, I would definitely, if you Google Leave No Trace, you will find some information. There is an organization. They have some signs, at least. Maybe I'll look into that myself.
Yeah. I did want to mention that Sean offered up the fact that there is a major, I believe it's a north-south trail that the Forest Service has that's only a half mile from this site. And I think there are additional access points to that particular trail system. So, I think there's a solution to be had there. We just have to drill into it and figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, what we're really dealing with is, a vehicle that is made to go fast, and a couple of teenagers, and off they go into the forest. How do we educate them? How do we show them what's appropriate to do, what's not appropriate? It's a longer conversation than we can have here, but I hope you'll have it with staff and everybody, the Forest Service, and we'll hear what you guys come up with next month.
We are absolutely open to that.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Lutz, this is Chair Ontiveros, and I'm really kind of following the conversation that's been going here. And I am a strong proponent of educating. And have you or your team started putting together any kind of educational resources for your guests concerning this particular issue? And with somehow not just educating, but with an emphasis on, and this is our expectation as if you're going to be a guest here, this is our expectation. Have you guys started coming up with anything concerning that?
We, two things I'd like to offer up is, we are going to do an extensive job of education for the clientele that will be using this resort. And to further that, we've started on the management plan. One of the things we included in the management plan, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, is that there will be prescribed routes for pedestrians, four-wheelers, vehicles, whatever kind of mechanisms are going to be on this site. There will be rules and regulations regarding all of that. There will be signage on the site that will be directed towards both education and enforcement, and all of those things will come together. We're in the kind of early stages of putting that together.
Okay.
We're hoping to get this zone change, and then we will, certainly put in a lot of effort on that particular idea.
Right. And
I want to make one big clarification on this project. It's been referred to as an RV park by several people, and I want you to know that's really not the intent, and that's not the way this will be run. The RV sites will be long-term leases, ground leases, and there will be properties on those RV sites that will be owned by those lease owners. And all of the cabin sites, everything above ground will be owner occupied, and those will also be long-term leases. So the characterization of this as an RV park is not quite accurate. I just wanted to make that point.
Mr. Lutz, thank you, and I appreciate that clarification. And just so we can keep the study session moving, I do realize the management for the on-site project for Windmill Ranch Resort. I think maybe the concern that we're expressing is once they leave your site, we expect them to be good stewards of the forest. And I think that's where at least talking for myself, where I'm saying I would like that included in the education if people are going to be using the OHVs out in the forest.
That is absolutely our intent, and I'm glad you brought it up. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lutz. That's all I've got.
One more idea, this is Commissioner Best. It's just occurring to me that since resources are so thin with the Forest Service, there might be a fun, educational, and useful program that you could put together where you give people a little discount on camping sites and they do some volunteer work, a couple of weekends a summer, trail building or whatever. There's no doubt a lot to do. And so you might chat with the Forest Service about that idea.
Again, I want to clarify that the people that will be here will have pride of ownership. This will not be an overnight or short-term lease resort by any stretch.
Then you might just do it, without worrying about the money part of it, but just get a program where a couple of weekends a summer you give people the opportunity to volunteer, and once they volunteer and start understanding the issue and put some blood, sweat, and tears into it, that's a big part of education.
Well, and I think it's important to note that I think the clientele in this resort are going to have pride of ownership, and they're going to want to protect their investment here.
Could I add something to that?
Sure.
This is Commissioner Williams. I do think that that's a good point, and the overall marketing plan and who you're really trying to reach with this makes a huge difference. And I just think if people are going to be here more long-term with pride of ownership, they're not really going to want weekend yahooers zipping around and causing a lot of mayhem. So I just think the overall marketing plan is going to direct who you get to a huge extent and minimize possibly some of these problems.
And there will also be employees on site to manage and enforce all of these things.
Okay, any more questions for the applicant or for me?
I'm not seeing any, and thank you, Mr. Short and Mr. Lutz, for the clarification and the information that you put into, so we've got a better idea of what this is. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I think that's it, so we can move on to the next item on the study session.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So the next item on the study session, Bob is managing this one as well. Oh, wait, no, that was, we just did zone change 2017. Sorry, the next item, the fourth item on your public hearing agenda next month is CUP 2102. another conditional use for a campground, actually very near one you just saw a little while ago in Woodland Ranch, and Zach is managing this one as well. Thanks for getting your screen up, Zach. Go ahead.
Sure, thank you. Lagging behind a little bit again. I'm trying to get the vicinity map here full screen, so just bear with me for a second here. But generally what this request is for, the applicant is calling the project Nomad's Pad, which is, it's a 10-acre parcel that will have 20 camping spot units, the maximum for the general zone in our zoning ordinance. 10 of those will be your typical glamping tents, except for that they won't have the water and wastewater, and I don't think electricity hooked up to them either. They actually, oh, here we go, finally. So here's where the project is right here. The one we just discussed, the other camping case that was mine, was way up here. But again, we're outside of the Valley area plan, but here's Highway 64 and 180, kind of the heart of Valley there. So the applicant's looking to do this year round, and this is an aerial of the parcel. I believe their access comes off of Dirty First Road down here and around here. You'll see a number of basically manufactured homes. So they are pretty close to where people are having their residences. For this specific case, the applicant did provide a neighborhood compatibility plan, discussed low lighting, quiet hours, landscaping and fencing and screening that might help. So that's really helpful for this kind of case where we're pretty much directly interfacing with neighborhoods. But we'll have, out of the total 20 units, we'll have their normal glamping tents, except for that they won't have all the plumbing, that sort of thing in there. There would be a separate bathhouse. 10 of the units is actually really interesting. The applicant's currently proposing these glass sort of pyramid structures where I believe there would be sort of like a hot tub or some other sort of amenities under umbrellas here. The issue that we're going to come about, and I'll have to get with the building division on the details of that, is if you have a structure like this that sort of sits on the property and is possibly used year round, that's where building code might have to be met. But that would be something that would be contradictory to some of the zoning rules. So I'll get with the building division on how that works, but definitely we've got an interesting structure here with the pyramid tents. These would have all of the plumbing, electrical sort of things within them. But here's a site plan. So here's where all of the pyramid sort of structures would be. Here's wastewater facilities here. And then here are all of the normal glamping sort of tents. And I believe some of the communal sort of facilities like bathhouses that would be used for these glamping tents would be in this area. They have started working on a Firewise plan that looks fairly good. Obviously would need a district buy-in. So I'll be analyzing that as well. But it looks like they have a number of their things they've started on doing a pretty good plan with. Staff is going to look into how do we interact with building code and the building division.
Fraudulent votes twice.
And that's do I have comments from the commission on how we should move forward with this?
Hey, Jack, nothing other than the questions and comments I posed on the first case we discussed today. So nothing more than that from me.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Zach, but what was the name again? I'm trying to get a list of all these.
Yeah, so the first one, I forgot to mention the name, I think. It was Launder Camp. This one is what we're calling Nomad's Pad.
Oh, that's Nomad's Pad.
Nomad's Pad, yes.
And what was the first one?
First one was Wander Camp.
Wander Camp.
Yeah. They always have interesting names, that's for sure.
I'm still trying to, still looking for the moose. Oh, let's see.
The Moose for Moose Ranch, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna find it.
Was there anything, Commissioner Best, that you had? I have your notes from the last campground we discussed, and so I'll apply those here as well. Was there anything else that we had?
No, thank you. I think we're going to school on this, and we'll just keep learning. And at some point, I think we might want to upgrade. I don't know if we have to do the formality in upgrading the ordinance, but just get something on a sheet of paper that outlines what we've learned about this.
And I think Jess could speak to that pretty well, but there would be a number of options. The commission and the board of supervisors, if we wanted to go the route of making amendments to the zoning ordinance, would have to go through the full public hearings for those. That would be quite a bit of public outreach and time involved in that sort of thing. We also, if we know what we're looking for as far as some of these items, it could be sort of like a substantive policy that we tell the applicants at the pre-application meeting, okay, to narrow down some of those issues that we've run into, we're looking for these kinds of submittals that will make it so that your project is more approvable when we get to planning and zoning commission level. There are a number of things that we could do there. And if the commission wanted to discuss these kinds of things, it could be something for a roundtable item at the study session or a future item. I'm sure that Jess could work with you all on what do we want to see there.
Mm-hmm. I definitely would like to see invasive weed mitigation on all these, because you have both people bringing in seeds and carrying out seeds out into the landscape. So it's really important that these not be centers for invasive weed seeds.
That is sort of a typical thing that we do sort of along with the landscaping plans, which is something that we sometimes waive some of the requirements for the campgrounds, but always looking to do that kind of thing. But certainly that's an item that I can add as a typical condition for when I do these campground cases.
And Mr. Schwartz, and also for you, Mr. McNeely, we really have been getting a pretty big influx of campground requests. And the items that we have been discussing tonight, that may be, I don't know if you guys have put together an agenda for the P&Z retreat, but that might be something that we could even brainstorm with at that time too, because we're getting a lot of these cases. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing that out there, just food for thought.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can certainly do that. And Commissioner Best, on the invasive noxious weed mitigation, the landscaping portion of the zoning ordinance, so that's a performance standard portion of the zoning ordinance, which applies, does require weed mitigation. So that is codified, so to speak, for any development that requires a landscape plan. But certainly the offsite impacts, leave no trace educational programs, and ensuring that people who are visiting these campgrounds or RV parks are in some way having the conditions of these projects have requirements for educational programs, so that the people who are clients or who come stay at these places don't have negative impacts in surrounding areas. That's certainly something we can discuss at the retreat.
And Mr. McNeely, I was thinking this use is relatively new to Coconino County. So I don't know if staff or the county as a whole have had a chance to really get a learning curve on this to see, did we miss something when we did this, or what can we learn? But it would be helpful if there are things that you guys are aware of. It could be a really good conversation, because like it is a relatively new use, and it's kind of fun doing this, but we do want to do it right.
Sure, absolutely. Okay. And Madam Chair, we can certainly discuss that on your agenda when we get to roundtable. We have an item to discuss your retreat in March.
Okay.
If there are no other questions of staff on those 4 items for public hearing next month, am I hearing any, Madam Chair?
So go ahead and continue on with the study session.
Okay, thank you. You'll see next on your study session agenda, we have 4 conditional use permits that are up for administrative renewal. Do any of the commissioners have questions on any of those 4 conditional use permits that are up for administrative renewal? Okay, hearing none, Madam Chair, we'll move on to our Community Development Department update. On item 1 here, we did want to let you know that we are in the process of recruiting for an administrative position. That's a part-time administrative position that primarily supports our environmental quality division. We're also in the process of recruiting for the planner position. That would be the planner position that Rachel Davis left open when she was promoted to be the department's business manager. So I know all the planning and zoning commissioners have a lot of great experience in planning. So if anyone's wanting to apply for this planner position, we would welcome you to join our team. I did want to mention, as we're talking about staff, that we have with us this evening our intern for this semester, Jacob Moffo. So Jacob, if you're with us, if you want to turn your camera on. Jacob is a NAU planning student, and he'll be with us this semester, and he's primarily helping Melissa Shaw right now with updates to the Donny Park Timberline Fernwood area plan. So just want to let the commissioners know that we have an intern to welcome. So please join us in welcoming Jacob.
Yes, and you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make that official. Welcome to the team, Jacob. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair. Next item on your department update would be the Donny Park Timberline Fernwood area plan update. They are continuing to meet on the second Thursday of the month. Their committee is split into category subcommittees for each section or chapter of the area plan, and they're currently drafting the area plan goals and policies. I believe we have Melissa with us. So if anyone has any questions, and I know 2 of our commissioners are on that committee, are there any questions or discussion about the Donny Park Timberline Fernwood area plan?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Best. I'm kind of working both ends here. I talked to Robert Wallace at the city, and I talked to Melissa. I'd love to see a link out of the north of Picture Canyon up to the edge of where this plan is. It's private land. It would be a tricky thing to do, but I just wonder, I don't know, Melissa, have you had any discussions with anybody? It would be a great connection to make if it were possible.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Best. I have had discussion with Robert Wallace, as well as we've had fairly in-depth discussions with the Forest Service regarding the Mount Eldon Dry Lakes project with staff that is managing with the city, the Flagstaff Trails Initiative, and then other city staff who is responsible for planning and installing the sections of the Flagstaff Urban Trail System. So we're working on significant updates to the trails map that are in the 2001 Donny Park Timberline Fernwood area plan, and also to the 2011 multimodal plan. So I could probably talk for an hour on what all that means, but the connection that you just referenced is part of actually I think it also came out of the Flagstaff Trails Initiative, but it also has been in one of the Flagstaff Parks and Greenways plan. I don't have that exact title right, but yes, that is something that is on the in the plans and will be reflected on the new map that we're creating.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Saad, can I say, reply to that? I was on the Flagstaff Trails Initiative group that did the Donny Park section. And I have friends, I think you're talking about the access off of Rain Valley Road into Picture Canyon, is that?
Yeah, there isn't any that I'm aware of that doesn't cross private land, but
right.
But there is a possibility there because of who owns the private land. And I don't want to say any more than that, but it would be it's a long shot, but it would be a great connection.
And I actually had talked to Jay about that, about what's the possibility of, taking that road into the county system to make it public. And then I talked to a friend who actually lives on that road. And to be honest, the residents have no interest whatsoever in making that a public access.
Yeah, I think I know the road you're talking about. There's another connection that I maybe could talk to you or
Oh, okay.
Melissa about. That's a possibility that is different.
Because it
But
would be
I don't
cool.
want to say any more because it involves private parties, so that wouldn't be appropriate.
Okay, but I think that would be cool to have access from the Donny Park area to Picture.
Yeah, it would connect. It would be a great connection.
And Commissioner Best, I'd be happy to talk with you separately about that. I do have information from the city staff, so we can compare notes.
Thank you very much.
Nobody else has got their faces up.
Okay, Madam Chair, we can move on to our next item on your study session if we're done with the Donny Park Timberline Fernwood Area Plan.
Yes, please do, Mr. McNeely.
Just wanted to let you know that we're also continuing to work on the utility scale renewable energy ordinance, the RIO. Melissa's been working with our advisory groups. We have a couple of commissioners on those advisory groups. So just wanted to see if there were any questions from the commissioners on the renewable energy ordinance update. Okay, Madam Chair, if there's none, the last couple of long-range planning things we wanted to let you know about is that that our staff, and specifically Melissa, is working with the City of Flagstaff on their update process for the Flagstaff Regional Plan. As many of you who've been involved in previous regional plan updates know, the city has a ballot measure requirement as a city for their general plan or comprehensive plan, and that's how the Flagstaff Regional Plan serves for the city. But of course, it does cover the MPO area to include county area, and it's been a real benefit to us in planning for the county to have that regional plan. So we'll be working with the city on the process. No one really knows what the process will be yet. We've got a new city council members and new board of supervisors members. So we're trying to gather some data and outline a process and be ready to take direction from leadership. So any questions about the Flagstaff Regional Plan? Okay, so Madam Chair and Commissioners, the other thing that is not on your agenda that Melissa asked that we bring up is the Brownfields grant. So Melissa has been the county's representative to the Brownfields group, and Melissa, if you wanted to discuss that or describe it. And I imagine you could share a screen if you wanted to, Melissa. And we've got about 7 minutes to wrap this up, and still need to talk about the commissioners' retreat in March.
Right, thank you, Jess. And I do not have share screen ability, but I sent you a PDF. I wondered if you wanted to share screen. And thank you for that. As you all probably remember, we wanted to bring it to your attention again. The county, as part of a 5-member coalition, including Yavapai County, City of Flagstaff, Winslow, Camp Verde, and I believe that's it then. We worked together under the umbrella of NACOG and received a grant from the EPA that is basically a community revitalization grant. And it looks like I can now share this. But the money is available, and we want to encourage businesses to apply for this. And if you hang on a second, I can share screen and show you a flyer that describes this. And we can also send this to you in an email. And this is just an informational flyer that describes that there is funding available for businesses through this Northern Arizona Revitalization Program, as it's being called. And it basically helps underutilized, vacant, or abandoned properties that potentially have contamination to find out the history, find out what the concerns are, and to take steps to help business owners and property owners understand what they need to do moving forward with that. So that would be in the form of environmental assessments. So the application process is open now. We are soliciting property owners to apply for the funding, and we just wanted to bring that to your attention. we'll be happy to get this flyer to you for further information to share with your networks. Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa.
Melissa, please send me that flyer. I'll spread it around.
Thank you. We will do.
Yeah, and Michelle, can you send that to me as well, please?
Absolutely. I'll send it to all the commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa, is it a possibility that brownfields could be sites for utility scale renewable energy?
Yes, they could.
Yeah, I've read about that, and I think, did I send you that article about that today?
Yes, thank you very much. I just responded to you.
Okay, good.
All right, thanks, Melissa. So Madam Chair, the last item we had on the department update was just letting you know, as everyone I'm sure is aware, that the county's continuing to make their operational decisions based on their phasing plan with the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, the county and the County Health and Human Services Department is very busy with the vaccination process, but for at least the foreseeable future, I'm sure February's meeting will continue to be held in an online format, and when we can move forward in these phases, then we can look forward to at some point being able to hold in-person meetings again. Are there any questions about the county's phasing process for county operations? Okay, Madam Chair, wanted to let you know, give you an update on what is going before the Board of Supervisors in the near future. The next Board of Supervisors hearing that will include community development items will be February 9th. The board is scheduled to hear the Belmont RV storage change of zoning regulations. That was an approval that came from, recommendation for approval that came from the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding lot coverage and fence height for the Belmont RV storage. That will go February 9th. The board was scheduled to hear the Kachina Highlands zone change on February 9th, but the County Public Works Department is still working with the applicants in the Kachina Highlands case to come to a final consensus on a traffic impact analysis and required improvements. So the board will continue the Kachina Highlands case on February 9th. It was already on their agenda and it's already been posted and noticed, so they'll have to continue it during the meeting. We would anticipate the Kachina Highlands case will probably come at some point in March. Any questions on board items? Okay. With that, Madam Chair, we're getting pretty close here to your public hearing time. Just wanted to let you know the last item on the roundtable for the commission is the P&Z Commission retreat. We got some concurrence at your last hearing that the first week of March would work for the commissioners, and I'm proposing either Thursday the 5th of March or Friday the 6th of March for half a day for the morning. Do any of the commissioners have a preference on those 2 days? I'd be willing to jot a note right now while we've got you.
I prefer Friday. This is Don Walters.
Okay.
Friday works for me.
Any other commissioners?
Friday will work for.
Yep, Friday works for me too.
Friday will work for me.
Okay.
I'm okay with either day.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. And you can see in your agenda here for the study session, we listed some topics that we've been kicking around. Zoning ordinance required submittals for hearings and permitting process, kind of clarifying what's required to be with an application when it comes to you all for a public hearing. Workforce housing, grading permits on residential properties, the renewable energy ordinance. We can probably go through the draft renewable energy ordinance with you at that retreat. Noise concerns and state law regulations regarding noxious weeds. And then my other note from our study session discussion here this evening is that we can discuss campgrounds and RV parks impacts to forest and public lands, and how maybe possibly education programs and turning that into maybe one of our common, one of our normal conditions would be something that we could look at in working out some of that wording at a retreat instead of in the middle of a hearing. Any other recommendations for your retreat? All right, looking forward to it. With that, Madam Chair, I see that it is
5:30.
It's 5:30, so I will step out of the way and let you kick off.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. I'm going to read the meeting rules and procedures first. Welcome to the January 27th, 2021 meeting of the Coconino County Planning and Zoning Commission. Cases will be heard in the order they appear on the agenda. Following the staff presentation, the applicant and/or the applicant's representative may address the commission. As an applicant, if you agree with the staff report and have no additional information, please feel free to keep your comments brief. Any relevant comments are welcome. Following the applicant's presentation, I will make a call to the public. If you wish to address this case, please state your name and address. We ask that your comments be limited to 3 minutes or less. Comments must be relevant to the case. Please address all comments to the commission. No matter how strongly you may feel about the case, all comments must be polite and courteous. After all interested public have spoken, the public comment portion will be closed. Discussion will then take place amongst commissioners. No additional public comments may be made unless requested by a commissioner. Decisions of this commission regarding any zone change or preliminary subdivision plat approval are referred to the Board of Supervisors as a recommendation. All other case decisions are binding unless appealed to the Board of Supervisors. If you disagree with the commission's decision, you have 15 days to appeal. Please contact staff at the Community Development Office for appeal procedures. Due to the virtual nature of this meeting, I will be doing a roll call vote of the commissioners to ensure accuracy for the record. Please mute your speakers and turn off your camera. Also, do not use the comment function for discussions. It is for communicating with staff if you have a problem. Thank you for joining us this evening and actively participating in our county planning. Mr. McNeely, the first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would please lead us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And we'll kick off the Pledge of Allegiance. Thanks, Jessica, for getting a flag up there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The second item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the January 6, 2021 meeting. If there are no modifications, we can go ahead and move to an approval or to a motion, please.
Chair Ontiveros, I need to ask one thing. None of the data that I got as part of the packet or from the agenda center included the minutes. So
really?
I don't see how I can vote on them without having you read them.
Okay, let me ask. I agree that is a problem right there, because if you didn't get them, you're not going to be able to vote. So we could move, if you want to go ahead and make a motion to move this to the next meeting, the February 24th meeting, that is fine.
Yeah, I would like to do that because I did considerable searching and couldn't find any recording of the minutes. So I would like to make a motion that we move the approval of the minutes for the January 6th, 2021 meeting until, and if someone would give me a date for the next meeting, please.
It's February 24th.
March 24th or
no, it's
February 24th of 2021.
Yeah.
I think that completes it.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Ruggles and a second by Commissioner Clifford to continue the Agenda item, approval of minutes for the January 6, 2021 meeting to the February 24th, 2021 meeting. All those in favor, please say aye. Commissioner Ruggles,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Walters, Commissioner Clifford,
Aye.
Commissioner Best,
Aye.
Commissioner Burton,
Aye.
Chair Ontiveros, I also vote aye. The motion passes unanimously, and this agenda item is continued to the February 24th meeting. The third item on the agenda is public hearings. Pursuant to Section 8 of this commission's bylaws concerning public hearing procedures, the chairperson may change the order that applicants are heard at the hearing. Due to input and anticipated discussion regarding CUP-20-028 for applicant Louis and Antoinette Cerna Family Trust, I am moving case number CUP 20-064 and DRO 20-012 for applicant APS to the public hearing item number 1. So with that, Mr. Schwartz, would you please give the staff report on this?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. This is Zach Schwartz. I'm the Senior Planner with the Community Development Department. And if you just bear with me really quickly, I have a PowerPoint presentation for cases CUP 20-064 and DRO 20-012. Looks like slowly we're coming up, but I'll go ahead and start real quick. For this application, the property owner is North Winds Commerce Center LLC out of Phoenix. The applicant is Arizona Public Service, also known as APS, from Phoenix. The existing zoning on the subject property is CH 10,000, that's heavy commercial zone. And the subject project area is 2.268 acres of the larger parcel that currently exists as a 29.71 acre parcel. The proposed use is for a utility installation. I'm sorry, it looks like I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty. Just a moment. Let's see if I can share that up again. I'm sorry about this. Madam Chair, I'm just going to go ahead, if you don't mind, and I can try to bring some things up on the screen, possibly as we move through. But I'm going to go ahead and just try to describe what's in the staff report and see if I can get some pictures up as we move along. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Yeah, not a problem, Mr. Schwartz. And I realize, you know, we're doing the best that we can. So please proceed with what you've got.
All right, thank you very much. So you'll see on the front page of the staff report, there's a vicinity map, and we're looking at a piece of property that's in the red area, the heavy commercial zoned area. It's north of the Belmont interchange and north of Highway I-40, northwest, not too far away from the Pilot Travel Center, right off the Belmont exit. I do have in the staff report as well, there's an aerial photo of the property, and you can see that it's vacant, surrounded by vacant land. And there's also been an approval for a split of the subject property, the 29 or so acres, to kind of partition off the little section, the 2.268 acre portion to be used for this specific use, the APS substation. I have at least one photo up from Brannigan Park looking up north toward the subject property. And you can see that it's in a really flat sort of meadow area. And then I go on to in the report to describe the proposed development. So this is a 69 kilovolt to 12 kilovolts distribution substation. There would be equipment located within a 350 by 350 substation yard enclosure. The enclosure itself would be built with 10-foot tall split face masonry block. And there would be two metal corrugated gates on the eastern portion of that enclosure there. The equipment inside of the enclosure would be approximately 14 feet high, so it'd be a little bit taller than, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, are you seeing, it looks like.
Yes,
Hey, Zach, I shared the presentation up, so just tell me which slide you want me to go to.
Oh, thanks, Jess. Yeah, okay. So sorry about that. This computer that I'm working on seems to be pretty slow. But Jess, if you can move to the next slide that says proposed development at the top. Thank you. So this is where you can see, now I've got something kind of in the way here. But on this picture, you can see at the top, there are two pictures that are examples of what this kind of distribution facility looks like in Phoenix, where they've done other things like this before. So you'll also see that there are a few larger overhead lines. And so for this project, there would be approximately 6 50-foot tall of these lines for the project. Jess, if you could go to the next slide after proposed developments, it's got a site plan. And I'm not sure if you're seeing it up there, but you can see basically out of this 2.268 acres, the majority of it is taken up by the enclosure wall, the 10-foot masonry block. You'll see on the east side of the sort of enclosure, there's the two gated areas at the northern portion and the southern portion, all accessed by a paved driveway going up to the property. And you'll see there's a number of different stormwater detention areas. Jess, if you'll go ahead and skip to the next slide, it should be landscape plan. So the applicant has submitted a landscape plan that's not all that detailed, but basically the applicant is willing to meet the zoning ordinance minimum standards for landscaping, and they've shown different areas on this site plan where they would have, they would basically meet the minimum zoning ordinance standard. The next slide, Jess, shows an elevation of the wall and gate. So you can see the split face block that's 10-foot tall and those rolling metal doors. The next slide, Jess, shows multimodal infrastructure. So in addition to building everything that we've seen on the slide so far, the applicant, in conversing with staff, has agreed to make some multimodal infrastructural improvements that is in line with the Belmont area plan. So the one that's described in the staff report is the 4-foot shoulder for a bicycle lane and possibly some pedestrian use, with a roll curb meeting MAG standards, that's Maricopa Association of Governments. That's something that the applicants agreed to do and was part of the staff report. After the staff report, I noticed that there was a map that I had missed in the Belmont area plan that also wanted to have a pedestrian sort of infrastructural improvement on the rear of the property adjacent to Coconino National Forest. And I discussed that with the applicant, and the applicant was amenable to having a foot, so Flagstaff urban trail system standard trail in the back of the project. So typically these are 8 to 10 feet wide with a variety of different improvements. Many of them are just unimproved, but they can also be compacted, aggregate based, or paved. So that's something that the applicant was willing to do. If we'll skip to the next sort of, the next slide, you can see the dotted brown line. And if Jess, you can trace that, you can see it comes from the activity center all the way west and up over Forest Service Road 171. So this is where the area plan is asking for a proposed pedestrian linkage into the Forest Service. And though none of this path sort of exists at this point, and it'll kind of come in piecemeal as we go through design review overlay cases, hopefully we can continue to make that stretch all the way from the activity center up north into the Forest Service property as is proposed in this map here. And on the next slide, I have some language that's proposed to modify condition number 2 to add the Foots Trail, because that wasn't something that had been discussed and finalized with the applicant until after the staff report was written. So I'll just read it to you, the modified condition, and hopefully we've got the slide up there. You'll see in the red is the new portions of the condition that staff is proposing. It says, the applicant shall install multimodal facilities for pedestrians and bicyclists adjacent to the subject property on Brannigan Park Road and a Flagstaff urban trail system or foot standard path at the rear of the property adjacent to Coconino National Forest, approved by the engineering supervisor and public works department. The facilities shall be at a minimum a 4-foot wide shoulder with roll curbs to MAG standards and an 8-foot wide Foots Trail within a public easement. So that's what staff is recommending for a change condition so that we get that additional piece in there to better meet the multimodal goals of the Belmont area plan. On the next slide, as far as long-range plan compliance, there are 3 long-range plans that come into effect for this area. So we have the comprehensive plan, the Flagstaff regional plan, and the Belmont area plan. The comprehensive plan in general, and I've gone into a lot more detail with the specific policies in the staff report. And if there are any questions on that or comments, I'm happy to take those on. But just generally, the comprehensive plan supports utility development that increases level of service to citizens. The comprehensive plan supports increased multimodal facility construction that the applicant is willing to do. The Flagstaff regional plan generally supports utility infrastructure that's designed in context with the surrounding area. So we see that with the split face block and the gates. It also supports utility development needed to support an area's desired development scale. And we all know that the Belmont area is growing. It supports developers having part in multimodal transportation infrastructure development. And as far as the Belmont plan that's applicable to this area, it supports expansion of utility infrastructure to accommodate the growth of Belmont, supports utility infrastructure that is complementary to the community's desired aesthetic, and supports increased multimodal facilities in general. So staff is finding that this case is generally compliant with all 3 of those plans. On the next slide, this slide's about design review overlay guideline compliance. So the Belmont area plan has a number of design review guidelines, and they include the desire to use split face block in developments, the desire to use rustic industrial influence designs, such as use of rusted steel, like on the gates that we see for this project. It desires landscaping meeting the zoning ordinance standard and using species local to the area. So we have a general plan for that. And as we get this entitlement after that portion, staff will review the landscape plan that will be submitted and approve it accordingly. So that would be met. And the guidelines support screening walls to the extent possible for utilities. So staff does believe that the applicant has met all of the design review guidelines that are applicable for this specific project. Moving on to the next slide, there are 4 findings that the Planning and Zoning Commission has to make in order to make approval of the case. I've gone through those 4 findings of fact and how staff is able to make them in the staff report. And I'm happy to elaborate on any of those if the commission has any questions. But staff is able to make all required findings of fact. So with that, Jess, if we go to the next slide. Staff's recommendation for this case is that if the commission can make the findings of fact, staff recommends approval of CUP 20064 with the modified condition number 2, which I've given on this last slide as well. And staff is recommending approval of DRO 20012 with the conditions of the staff report. And this will take 2 motions to make an approval of this. So with that, I don't have anything else, but if the commission has any questions or comments, I'm happy to take those at this time.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead, Commissioner Best.
Maybe this is going to be a little expansive, but let me take a shot at it. We're in a neighborhood here that 20 years ago everybody thought would be just industrial, and now there are what, a couple hundred houses, dwelling units of one type or another, and we kind of have a conflict between the industrial look of the area and what a neighborhood would like to see. We recently had an RV storage area that had a big block wall, and this has got big block walls, and I'm looking for a way to make this, even though it's a fair distance from the houses, is there a way to make these block walls look less, frankly, ugly? There are ways to do that. I think I suggested last time that we use evergreens that would grow up eventually. APS probably doesn't want tall trees, so maybe boulders or Virginia creeper growing up the wall or something to make this look less industrial. And I don't know if there is room in the landscape ordinance for that. I don't know how much we can influence the applicant to do. So I guess I'm just throwing this out as a question. Is there a way that we can make this look a little more neighborhood and a little less industrial?
So Madam Chair, Commissioner Best, I can definitely appreciate your look at this, and I think that some of the aesthetic of this sort of project is sort of inherently not as pretty as some of the other sorts of projects that we see come through on a regular basis. But I will say that the landscaping ordinance does require a mixture of trees and shrubs, and so and there's a minimum height for them as well. And I don't have it right in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that you start off with something like 8 or 10 feet, and then eventually, obviously, those will grow. So I think that when you're looking at the frontage requirements for landscaping, that's going to help break up the look of it, because trees will be required of that, and that's just the standard part of the zoning ordinance. On the east side, that's sort of facing the residential area. There will be some landscape involved there too, and beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but also the rolling doors will sort of break up the monolithic sort of look of that side of it as well. The split face block is a material that was chosen, I think, as part of the design review overlay guidelines, as adding a little bit more texture and breaking up the appearance a little bit more than just your standard block or brick or that sort of thing. So I think, again, I think there's an inherently it's not as pretty of a use as some of the other sorts of structures that we see, but to the extent possible, I think what's planned here and what the landscape ordinance has within it will help to make it a little bit better of a look. But of course, the Planning and Zoning Commission has the full ability to require whatever sort of aesthetic treatments are felt necessary to meet the design review overlay guidelines, and so that could be part of the commission discussion.
Yeah, there, and yeah, it's always stressful.
Do you,
You know what? We've got somebody that is not muted that's coming into the meeting. I'm not sure who it is, but can I please ask everybody at the meeting to mute your phones and turn off your cameras? Thank you. Continue, Commissioner Best.
maybe we can get into this during the commissioner discussion. In my opinion, our native palette of landscaping is not going to do what I'm thinking of. It just won't do it. One question is there water out there? Is there water for irrigation?
Right, so Commissioner Best, there isn't, I don't think that the applicant plans on having a whole lot of water, and the design review overlay guidelines speak to trying to use species that would use as little water as possible. In our new landscaping ordinance, I don't think that irrigation is necessarily required, and you could sort of hand water these things until they're established. So I mean, I think you're right, that that's part of it that's going to be a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah. Another question is, we were speaking earlier this evening before this meeting about weed management. We definitely need weed management here. The disturbance of the soil, and then excuse me, the moisture that's going to be in the detention basin. We could get some. I could see that being a source of weeds. Do I have to add something to the conditions, or is that now automatic? That there will be an ongoing long-term mitigation program for invasive weeds?
What I'll say is that the landscaping ordinance does require disturbed areas being reseeded, which is you know, a huge part of the battle as far as the flourishing of invasive weeds and that sort of thing. And it's also, there's at least on the front end a required plan of dealing with noxious and invasive weeds. So I think with those two things, we pretty much have it covered, especially with the reseeding that the applicant sort of planned on in any case, without even getting to the point of what exactly does the landscape ordinance say. It does have that in there as well, but that goes a long way. And I think it's pretty much covered without adding anything additionally.
Okay, well, in my opinion, and with considerable experience, reseeding without irrigation, especially after you've disturbed the topsoil, is a long shot. So I will think about a condition later on. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Schwartz, I am not seeing any other commissioners notifying that they've got questions. So I'm going to ask if the applicant or the applicant's representative is present tonight.
Hey, Zach, this is Ryan at Cohen Van Loo. I'm civil engineer by trade. How are you?
Okay, could I please, this is Chair Ontiveros, could I please ask you to state your name and address for the record? And also, I would like to ask you if you have read the staff report and if you agree with the conditions in there. Also, the modification to condition number 2 that Mr. Schwartz talked about right now.
Madam Chair, my name is Ryan Weed. I work with Cohen Van Loo. Our office address is 4550 North 12th Street in Phoenix. It's 85014. Yes, I've read the staff report, and my client APS and myself are in agreement with the stipulations, recommendations of the approval, along with the modifications that Mr. Schwartz presented tonight.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything else that you would like to add at this time to follow up on Mr. Schwartz's presentation?
No, Madam Commissioner, I do not.
Okay, thank you so much. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Weed? Commissioner Best, I see you unmuted. Do you have a question?
I do not, just housekeeping error.
Okay, it's no problem. Okay, thank you, Mr. Weed. Seeing no questions from the commissioners for you, I'm going to go ahead and see if there's any public comment. So I would like to ask if there is anyone from the public that wishes to address the commission on this case this evening. If there is, over on the participant list on the far right-hand side of the screen, there is a raise hand button. And if anyone would like to speak, that's going to be my signal that you would like to be heard. So I am not seeing any raise hand symbols. So I'm going to go ahead and close it to the public and open it up to discussion, commission discussion. Commissioner Ruggles, you're up first tonight.
Okay, we're unmuted, and I see I get to occupy the hot seat in starting this off. Well, first off, I'm going to state that I think that I do not have a problem with the design presented for a substation for a couple of reasons. One, that this is a very narrow strip of property that it will be on. It is quite a ways from any residential property. The side that has no gates and just a small retention basin there is what faces the freeway, I-40. So I don't think that we need to sit here as we go on to the design review and design a Taj Mahal myself. I know that APS takes very good care of their facilities. They're always neat, well-maintained. So I will leave it at that. As far as the CUP goes, I can make the findings for the staff recommendations for changes as they are written. I will vote for approval of that. And I suppose we really should address the DRO separately, but I can also make the findings for that as it exists and as it has been presented by staff. So that being said, I'll turn it over to everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ruggles. Commissioner Williams, you're next. And I would like all of the commissioners to go ahead and address both the CUP and the DRO when you're talking so we can move through this.
Okay, I concur with Commissioner Ruggles on both the CUP and the DRO to save some time.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Williams. Commissioner Walters.
I too agree with Mr. Ruggles or Commissioner Ruggles on this. I thought he outlined everything very well. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Clifford.
I can make the findings on both the CUP and the DRO.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Best.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to propose an addition to the recommended conditions for the DRO, and it would be the applicant shall have an invasive weed mitigation and the applicant shall have an invasive weed monitoring and mitigation program approved by staff. That to me means somebody shows up every year and makes sure that there is no invasion of invasive weeds. As far as the landscaping goes, this is a long way from anywhere, but who knows? Someday there may be a hair salon next to this. This is a great commercial strip that might support the neighborhood. I'm not going to beat this horse anymore. I've already kind of made my point. I think for the same amount of money that is normally put into this kind of a landscaping plan, you could do a little better job if the applicant sat down with staff and found some ways to make this look a little nicer. But I think at this point, I would just leave it up to staff and the applicant and see what happens.
Thank you, Commissioner Best.
Other than that, APS is great, and I'm sure this is necessary, and I know I support both the CUP and the DRO.
Thank you, Commissioner Best. Commissioner Burton.
I agree with my fellow commissioners. I can make the findings.
Okay. And this is Chair Ontiveros, and I do concur with Commissioner Ruggles kind of opening comments that got this discussion started. I think we're good where we're at, and I personally do not want to get into the business of design. So I think that I can make the findings and I can move forward if we have a motion. I personally do not have a problem with the modified condition that Commissioner Best would like to add. So I'll take a motion and a second. We're going to need two of them. Let's start with the CUP first, please.
Okay, I'll move forward with that. I move for approval of CUP 20-064 with conditions as stated by staff.
I'll second that.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Ruggles and a second by Commissioner Clifford for approval of CUP 20-064 with the modified condition as stated by staff. All in favor, please say aye. Commissioner Ruggles?
Madam Chair, and did that include my addition to the first condition of the DRO?
No, it did not, because we're currently on a motion for the CUP, so the DRO motion will come next, and that's where that will come in at.
My apologies.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Okay, we're going to do a roll call vote. Commissioner Ruggles?
Aye.
Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Walters?
Aye.
Commissioner Clifford?
Aye.
Commissioner Best?
Aye.
Commissioner Burton?
Aye.
This is Chair Ontiveros also voting aye. So the motion for approval for CUP 20-064 with the modified condition passes unanimously. Now let's do a motion for DRO 20-012, and this is where Commissioner Best, your additional condition would come in. So if you would like to make the motion, please proceed.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve DRO 20-012 with the addition to condition number 1. The applicant shall have an invasive weed monitoring and mitigation program approved by staff.
I'll second that.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Best and a second by Commissioner Williams for approval of DRO 20-012 with the modification to condition number 1. All in favor, please say aye. Commissioner Ruggles?
Aye.
Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Walters?
Aye.
Commissioner Clifford?
Aye.
Commissioner Best?
Aye.
Commissioner Burton?
Aye.
And this is Chair Ontiveros. I also vote aye. So the motion for approval of DRO 20-012 with a modification to condition number 1 passes unanimously. The second item on the agenda tonight for public hearing is CUP 20-028. And Mr. McNeely, if you would like to start the staff presentation, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am sharing my screen right now. Please let me know when you can see the PowerPoint presentation for this item.
Okay, you're up. You're up and going.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, I'm Jess McNeely with Community Development Staff, and this item, CUP 2028, is a requested CUP modification to an existing utility facility standpipe conditional use permit for known as the wagon wheel. So this request is to modify what currently exists as CUP-14-39 for a utility facility, the water standpipe. And the request is to allow the sale of water to private individuals. The location here is 7887 East Old Route 66 within the Parks Area Plan. Our property owners here are the Cerna Family Trust. This one parcel property is 14.3 acres and it's Zone G, General Zone, and this is in Supervisor District 3. This would be a zoning map showing the subject property as highlighted right here. And you can see that all of the surrounding properties are also zoned G. You see that it's on the north side of East Old Route 66 here, and just, I believe, possibly about a quarter mile to the east of the interchange here. This is an aerial photograph that captures the application area, and you can see a loop drive that goes onto the property, and you can see the 3 existing tanks that are there and a concrete pad that includes the standpipe infrastructure. You can see on some of the surrounding properties there are some ponds on surrounding properties. Many of the surrounding properties are vacant, and there is some residential development. More so, the closest ones are immediately south of the application area. These are some photographs of the site. The one in the upper left-hand corner here is with snow, and you can clearly see the 3 tanks and a gate to the facility. The one in the lower right-hand corner, again, you're seeing the tanks from a little bit different angle, and you see some of the fencing that is in the area with the infrastructure. You do see a structure that looks like it's probably not in great shape. Looks like it's partially demolished, and that would be on property on a parcel immediately north of the subject property. When we look around the immediate area, the photograph you're seeing right now would be the property abutting to the east. It is vacant per community development records and the assessor's database. It does have a shipping container on it, and we're seeing a banner on the property right now. When I was out there posting the site, looks like for some kind of charity or nonprofit event. This would be standing at the site looking southeast across Route 66, and you're seeing some of the residential development in there and some more shipping containers. There is some ag or larger equipment that you'll see in this area, and you do see I-40 in the background here. As a matter of fact, even in this photograph, you can see a semi-truck on I-40 from this site. This is looking due south from the site across Route 66 to I-40, and this you're seeing I believe some kind of trailer on the property to the south, and some equipment, looks like a backhoe. Also in the area to the west of the site, also on the north side of Old Route 66, would be an ADOT storage yard. It's kind of the first thing that catches your eye when you get off at the exit there. So in the storage yard, you have some concrete barriers and material stockpiled. So, Madam Chair, when we look at the background on this site, there's been a standpipe here and in use since its approval in 1988. It was originally conditioned to be limited to the applicant's hotel. At the time, the applicants also owned a hotel on the south side of I-40. A 2014 request proposed use by the public, so changing those conditions. The request was appealed to the board and to the Board of Supervisors, and the board approval limited use of the standpipe to the applicant's hotel and the local fire district. Since that time, the hotel property sold, and most of us are familiar from driving by that it's now developed with the Kadampa Temple. So the Kadampa organization now owns that property. According to the applicants, the wells on this site produce more water than what's needed by the applicant. So what the applicants are now simply asking for is to modify their CUP conditions for their utility facility, their standpipe, to allow water sales to individuals. So they've offered that up. That would be sale to individuals, not to commercial haulers, and therefore no commercial vehicles. When we look at the public notice portion of this case, the applicants did their citizen participation plan. We gave them a property ownership list of all property owners within 1,500 feet. This has been going for some time. The applicants have been working on their proposal for some time. So they held meetings back in March and April of 20. According to their report, they had about 12 participants at each of those. Because there was some significant lag from when they held those meetings and they were trying to move forward with their application, they again on June 4th, 2020 sent out a letter to neighbors asking for input. Of course, by June 4th of this past year, the county was already into COVID restrictions. So our department was allowing people to meet their citizen participation plan requirements by means other than in-person meetings. So in this case, the applicants sought to get input with a letter. According to the applicants, and was included in your packets, 6 neighbors provided response. Some of those supported the request, and some of the neighbors opposed expanding this use as requested. Since then, staff has received 9 additional opposition emails or letters. As a matter of fact, we emailed out to you planning and zoning commissioners today the follow-on emails and letters that we've received since your packets went out to you last week. We have been in contact with one of the opposing neighbors. As a matter of fact, I talked to her on the phone today, Maggie Knight, and she emailed me this graphic. She wasn't sure if she was going to be able to share a screen this evening, so I just went ahead and put it in the PowerPoint so you could see what was submitted by one of the opposing neighbors. What they've noted on here is which properties are in opposition to the request, according to the one opposed neighbor, and according to this document, the parcels without a notation are property owners whose opinions were unknown, so didn't get an opinion from the properties that do not have a notation. When we look at the zoning ordinance requirements for CUP findings of fact in order to approve a conditional use permit, these are the 4. Planning and zoning commissioners, I know you've seen these before. The first, that the proposed condition, that the proposed location of the conditional use is in accord with the objectives of this ordinance. That would be the zoning ordinance, and the purpose of the zone in which the site is located. Of course, this is within the G zone, and the G zone does allow conditional use permits for utility facilities. Number 2, that the proposed location of the conditional use and the conditions under which it would be operated or maintained will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, or material injurious to properties or improvements in the vicinity. Number 3, that the proposed conditional use will comply with each of the applicable provisions of this ordinance, except for approved variances. The application from the applicants is consistent with zoning ordinance requirements. They've had a conditional use permit for some years and met their conditional use permit requirements and are currently renewed as in good standing with their conditional use permit. And item number 4, that the proposed conditional use is consistent with and conforms to the goals, objectives, and policies of the general plan or specific plan for the area. So in this case, the comprehensive plan policies would apply to this request, as would the parks area plan. So when we look at the comprehensive plan policies that would be applicable to this request, we look under the community services section, and policy number 2 is that utility infrastructure shall be located in a manner that is sensitive to community character and environmental and scenic resources. In this case, the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure is already in place. And we would also see land use and growth policy as being applicable. That would be policy number 45, that the county shall work closely with applicants for public use and service land uses to minimize the potential impacts on residential areas, rural character, and the environment. Staff certainly sees that the request could be found to be generally conforming to the comprehensive plan policies. When we look at the parks area plan policies, when we look under the community facilities section, policy number 1 is that public and semi-public uses shall be approved at locations convenient to the population being served, provided that such locations are not detrimental to surrounding neighborhoods. Under the sustainable and reliable water supply section, we have policy 4, proposed water development projects, i.e. commercial wells, etc., that serve the local community shall receive favorable consideration by the Planning and Zoning Commission if compatible with surrounding neighborhoods and not detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare. And under the land use section, policy number 7, new commercial development shall be limited to low water using neighborhood oriented uses that are primarily intended to serve local needs and deemed to be beneficial to residents of the area. Highway oriented or regional commercial uses shall not be permitted in the study area and shall be encouraged to locate in Williams, Belmont, or Flagstaff. And then land use policy 8A, that future commercial development in the vicinity of the Pittman Valley interchange, and that would include our subject property here, shall be limited to the existing commercially zoned property at the southwest quadrant of the interchange. Staff can see how these findings, or the findings could be made, that the request generally conforms to these policies if the utility is viewed as a utility and not as a commercial use. This is a map of the parks area plan. I realize it might be a little hard for you to see, but where you see the H right here would be the Pittman Valley area, and you can see the western border of the area plan boundary just encloses that area, and it does include just kind of on the western edge here of the parks area plan, the Pittman Valley area and the application area. So when we look at compliance with the zoning ordinance, we do note that utility facilities, and that includes water standpipes, are listed as a public, quasi-public use, not a commercial use, which are allowed in the general zone under section 2.7. So the zoning ordinance land use matrix does categorize land uses into different categories, such as residential, agricultural, public, quasi-public, which is what a utility facility is listed under, and it does list commercial uses, which would be more of what most of us would consider typical commercial uses: hotel, motel, restaurant, retail, those types of uses. The other thing to note here, this second bullet, is utility facilities, including water standpipes, are allowed in the general zone through approval of a conditional use permit, which is why we've got one on this property, on this G zone property. So staff certainly finds the request as conforming to the zoning ordinance. In staff recommendations, if the commission can make the required findings of fact, then staff recommends approval of the CUP subject to the 8 conditions of the staff report. Madam Chair, would point out a couple of things. First off, that water assurance and use of water is regulated by the state, by ADWR. So that is a state permitting process. And under state statute, for local governments, counties in this case, to make the findings for a county CUP approval, water use or water adequacy or assurance cannot be a consideration. So we certainly encourage the commissioners to look at the findings and realize that that discussion of water assurance or water use can't be included in making the findings for this case. We certainly note that that there are neighbors, probably several on this meeting this evening, who are opposed to expansion of this use to include individual sales. From certainly their perspective, the Parks Area Plan was intended to prohibit commercial uses, and I kind of see the quandary here. And this is a utility use, but the proposed expansion certainly would be for people accessing the site to pay to be supplied with water. Certainly see how different people are seeing the proposed use a little differently. And with that, Madam Chair, I would be happy to answer any questions of the commission.
Okay, Mr. McNeely, I'm going to go ahead and start with my questions, and then I see that Commissioner Walters has some as well. Can you please go back to, I'm going to have you pull up two separate maps.
Mm-hmm.
The first one I want you to pull up is the one closer to the beginning of your presentation, where you show the subject property. Can you show the commission, there is a cottage industry in this area. Can you point out where that is located at?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. So I believe the cottage industry for vehicle restoration is on this property that I'm pointing to right now. Are you guys seeing my arrow?
I'm not. Oh, I see the arrow, but I thought that was pointing to the subject.
Oh, that's the subject property. Sorry. Trying to figure out which screen. How about now? Are you seeing the computer cursor arrow? Okay. I'm pretty sure, and I could certainly confirm with a quick search on our parcel viewer website, but I'm pretty sure the cottage industry for vehicle restoration is on this property that I'm pointing to right here. Does that answer your question, Madam Chair?
It does. Now, would you go forward and pull up the map that I believe you said Ms. Knight provided?
Mm-hmm.
Can you pull that up, please?
There we go.
Okay. If I'm reading this correctly, some of those that are opposed are across both the east and westbound lanes of I-40. They're not in the close neighborhood there.
Yes, see what you're saying there, Madam Chair. There are a good number of these properties labeled with an N that are on the south side of I-40.
Okay. Just a question for you. Do you know, we have letters of opposition that actually have names and addresses, and we know that that's who it's from. Have you been able to match those letters up with names and addresses and all of the ins?
So, Madam Chair, yeah, we received this from an opposed neighbor, and we have not analyzed it to match those up. I know from a few of the letters and emails that I've received, I do recognize some of the properties that are immediately to the east and to the southeast of the subject property. I'm pretty sure I recognize some of these property owners' names and as being on some of the emails and opposition letters. But otherwise, yeah, we haven't done an analysis, being that this was provided by, by a neighbor, by a member of the public, just for public input. We didn't do an analysis of this between the letters we've received in this map. So this was really just, as stated on here, this is what was collected by the one neighbor.
Okay. I just, for the record, I believe that if there are those that are opposed, I think we need names and addresses. This is too general for me. I don't know who these people are that are represented with ins on their property parcels, nor do I know what the reason for their opposition is. So truthfully, I'm a little uncomfortable with this map, just because there's no names and reasons for opposition being provided in this open meeting, because this is an open meeting. And this is where those that are opposed have a chance to weigh in, state their name and address for the record, and state their reason for opposition. So I'm going to take this image that was provided by opposed neighbor with a grain of salt. I'm just putting that out there right now. That is the last of my questions. Commissioner Walters, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. And that was one of my concerns. That's an unsubstantiated report. And I don't think it belongs in this forum. Mr. McNeely, if you'd go to the aerial photograph, the satellite photo there.
There you go.
It looks to me like this roundabout's going off of their property onto the adjacent property to the north. The one that has the building that's fallen down. Do they also own that property?
So Commissioner Walters, yes, I do believe the applicants also own the property to the north.
So would it be inappropriate for us to ask for them to clean up that eyesore of a building there?
So Madam Chair, Commissioner Walters, I'm sure that could be discussed. It's on a separate parcel. Doesn't have anything to do with this use, but I certainly see where that could be something that would improve aesthetics in the neighborhood. But I'm sure it could be discussed. Staff certainly would be hesitant to include that in proposed conditions, being that that's a separate parcel, and you know, that dilapidated structure doesn't have anything to do with the use that's being discussed with this request.
Well, the use that's being discussed right now includes this roundabout around this water facility, which goes off of the property. Now we're approving the standpipe. Are we not also approving the roundabout, the way to access it?
So Madam Chair and Commissioner Walters, yeah, obviously this roundabout does provide access. My assumption is the roundabout went all the way onto the property to the north at some point in time to also give access to that property. Certainly see how the infrastructure of the driveway goes on to the property to the north. So that might be a good thing to bring up to the applicants.
Mr. McNeely, do you have a circulation plan that shows whether or not that roundabout that we're looking at, if that is part of the circulation plan? I'm just looking for clarification here. Sure. How the vehicles will maneuver on the property.
Yeah, we can. I can certainly pull up the applicant's submitted site plan. I believe their site plan included that roundabout, and I don't know if it got to the details showing that it crosses that property line. But I know the applicant's site plan does include the roundabout for access. So let me see, and I can continue to take questions here while we're discussing things. I will pull up the applicant's site plan.
Okay, and you know what, commissioners, let's go ahead and use the raised hand, just because we do have a lot of participants, and it would help me out if I see hands. However, Commissioner Best, I do see you unmuted, so I will actually, just for two individuals, Maggie Knight and Daisy Howell. And I just want to, just for order, you will not be allowed to ask questions of staff at this time. This is for the commission to ask questions of staff. So at this time, go ahead and please unraise your hand. All right, Commissioner Best, I believe you had a question for staff.
I did, and Madam Chair, I'm embarrassed to say I've lost track of how to raise my hand here. So
It's okay. It's okay. Go ahead.
You're not the only one.
Yeah. I would like to ask of staff, I believe one of the letters in opposition maybe, I guess you would say, accusation that there had been previous violations of the conditional use permit in the past. Do we have any record of violations? Did anyone complain?
So, Madam Chair and Commissioner Best, we don't have any open violations. We don't have any record of violation on this property. Staff certainly noted those as well. In order to approve or deny a conditional use permit, the commission is required to make the findings as listed in the zoning ordinance, and that doesn't include have there been past violations of conditions. So that's the recommendation certainly I would give to the commission is understand, and if that's something that maybe you all would like to discuss with the applicants, that would be fine. However, in order to make the findings, it's really based on what those findings state, and that doesn't include have there been previous violations.
And Mr. McNeely, I'm going to go ahead and interject right now. Because we are going to stick to a very orderly meeting, and we are going to be basing this decision on the 4 findings of fact. So I do not believe that has anything to do, and I would just like to keep anything controversial or fluff or that just is simply irrelevant. Please keep that out of the conversation tonight. Anyway, go ahead, Commissioner. Excuse me, Mr. McNeely.
No, thank you, Chair Ontiveros. All I could recommend maybe to Supervisor or Commissioner Best rather would be that if there's concern for violations of conditions, that's where conditions need to be things that are enforceable and potentially customized to ensure that the use of any conditional use permit doesn't have negative impacts on surrounding properties. So yeah, concerns with violations can certainly drive conditions. So that's a recommendation I would give it in being able to move forward.
Well, it's my impression that perhaps what you have just stated, and Madam Chair as well, is correct, because this is a new CUP, but it's kind of standard operating procedure over many decades that when we do a renewal, we look at violations. And so that gives in this case, that gives neighbors a way to make sure that any conditions that we apply tonight have some teeth to them.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want the public to get the impression that we can have conditions here that have no basis in enforcement. So if you want to expand on that or whatever, but it is my impression that when there is a renewal, violations are very much an item to be taken into consideration.
The only violations that are relevant here are violations that come from the county, not allegations of violations. So if staff brings forward the violations to us, then we can recognize those. Otherwise, they're just allegations.
And that's why I asked staff if there had been any complaints. And if anybody wants to tell me real quick, I'll be humble here. Where's the raise hand function?
Commissioner Best, if you look at the far right-hand column where it says participants, actually, I'm going to have Commissioner Burton was having a problem with the raise hand. Commissioner Burton, could you please come on and give some clarification for those that aren't finding it?
Yeah. Which platform are you using? Are you on a Mac or a PC, Sat?
I'm on a PC.
Okay, I'm not 100% sure on the PC, but I just updated to the most current version of Zoom on Mac, and it disappeared from my participants list. And I just did a Google, and it's hidden now under the reactions icon. So check there.
And Commissioner
I
Bell,
got it. It's with the funny faces. Yeah.
Okay, it's under reactions.
okay. And just for, again, for clarification, I already gave Daisy Howe this clarification, and I see her hand raised again. I see an individual named Cody and an individual named Kevin Smith. At this time, you can put your hands down. This time is for the commissioners to ask questions of staff. I will not be calling on you. Okay, please proceed. It looks like we have Commissioner Ruggles who would like to ask a question.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to state something that goes back to what Sat said about years past, that when we look at the question about violations, one of the things that we have asked is been, have the conditions of a previous CUP that is being renewed for one reason or the other, even with modifications, have those conditions been met? Rather than asking about violations that have been filed by the public relative to that CUP. And that has typically been something that is addressed by staff. And we've had numerous cases where that question has been raised. But I'm just saying this, I hope, in an effort to kind of clarify the discussion about it.
Commissioner Ruggles, I appreciate that clarification. Because I think we could go down into a rabbit's hole with that. And so I do believe the question, have the conditions of the previous CUP, have those been met? That's relevant. Like, that is absolutely relevant. Then we have something to hang our hat on. Otherwise, we could do a trail taste that is, like I said, we're going to end up deep, dark into a rabbit hole, and I don't want to go there.
Right, and I agree with that completely, and we have not gone down that rabbit hole in the past, in the time I've been on the commission, so.
Agreed.
No.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the other commissioners, I will look for raised hands. I will let everybody know that I will be looking for raised hands as well as unmuted mics, just to be sure that everyone who does want to participate in this hearing tonight will have an opportunity. Okay, so I am not seeing any other questions, Mr. McNeely, for you at this time. Okay. So I am going to ask if the applicant or the applicant's representative is here with us tonight. I would like the applicant to state name and address for the record. And I would like to ask the applicant if you have received and read the staff report, and if you agree with it and the conditions for the proposed conditions for approval.
Good evening, Madam Chair Ontiveros, members of the board and planning and zoning staff. This is Antoinette Cerna, joined by my husband, Louis Cerna. Our mailing address is P.O. Box 520, Grand Cane, Arizona, 86023. At this point, yes, we do agree with the staff report. Madam Chair, may I address Commissioner Best on this for this violation?
If you feel that it would be relevant, you absolutely can, because you are the applicant.
It's a real explanation, Madam Chair. Commissioner Best, this was a few years ago, and it was not a written violation. Kent Meekum, the Ponderosa Fire Chief, requested that they be able to access our water site because we're the closest to them in their trucks and apparatus. We gave them access code and to be able to use the site, the water site. He was over there training his staff on how to use the water because he wanted to make sure the staff knew how to access the system in a calm situation, not in an emergency situation. So he was over there was various apparatus. He had different water trucks. Somebody called the county, I'm not quite sure, complained that we are selling water, which is not the case. Any and all fire departments have access to any and all water they want free of charge. But he was simply training his staff on the use of the machinery. So, and there was never a written violation or somebody called to the county, and I'm sorry, this is a few years ago, I don't remember who it was. And I explained who it was, and they said, they kind of said, oh, for God's sakes, forget that then. But there's never been a written violation of any kind, other than Kent training his staff on how to use the system.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cerna. You did say that you had read the staff report, that you agree with the proposed conditions that are contained therein. Do you have any other information that you believe would be helpful to the commission in the decision-making process that is before us tonight?
No, the only thing I want to add is that this last year we did add, because we want to get along with the landscaping plan, we added 10, 15-foot ficus trees. That was the tallest I could find that for purchase, that they should be blooming and pretty much hiding the site. I understand there was concern on the back building that's kind of fallen down, and my husband would have no problem taking that building down. I kind of thought it brought character, but I might be wrong on that one. But if the commission finds that they would like the building taken down, we can take that building down without a problem. Okay, Ms. Cerna, this may be, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You know what I mean? But thank you for that information and your willingness to take it down. That may come up in commission discussions. So now that we know where you stand on it, we can incorporate that. Okay. Okay. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Ms. Cerna at this time? Okay, I am not seeing any, Ms. Cerna, so you can go ahead and mute, and I'm going to go ahead and reach out to open it up to the public at this time. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and open it up for public comment at this time. But before I do, I just want to reiterate the meeting rules and procedures that I previously read. All comments will be limited to 3 minutes or less, and all comments must be relevant to the case. Please do not use the comment function for discussion. And this is very important, and I want everyone to hear this. I will not allow any comments, and I mean any comments whatsoever, related to groundwater issues. And if I hear any, I'm going to immediately cut off any discussion. So I just want to give that heads up right now. And Mr. McNeely, would you please, do you have a mechanism to time the 3 minutes?
Madam Chair, yes, I do. I can time 3 minutes.
Okay, I would like you to time 3 minutes, and at the 1 minute mark, when they have 1 minute remaining, if you could just give a quick 1 minute remaining, and the speaker can just continue through that and then call it at 3 minutes, please. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and open it up to public discussion. I see that Maggie Knight has her hand raised. Maggie, please address the commission, state your name and address and your comments, please.
Good evening, Commission and Chair. My name is Margaret Knight. I will be speaking this evening for myself, my husband, Stephen Knight, and then 3 additional neighbors. My understanding is that I will get 3 minutes per person that I was speaking on behalf of. Is that correct?
Well, let me back up here just a little bit. I will certainly make an accommodation for that. However, I am going to need you to state the name and address. Your husband's address, of course, would be the same as yours. But the name and address of the individuals that you will be speaking on behalf of, we're going to need their name and address for the record as well. And how many,
yes,
Ms. Knight, can you tell me how many you have again? It's you and your husband.
Yes, my husband and myself, and then 3 additional neighbors, and I have their legal names and addresses to provide for you.
Okay, so that's a total of 5 individuals at 3 minutes, and that's going to be a total of 15 minutes. I would like to ask you to keep your comments to 10, please. I want relevant comments. You know what I mean? Just give us the facts.
Yes.
And I think that you can do that in 10 minutes. However, your time will not start until after you have stated the names and addresses of everyone that you will be speaking on behalf of. So please proceed. And then Mr. McNeely, when she is done giving the last address, please start a 10-minute time clock.
Will do.
Okay, go, please proceed, Ms. Knight.
My address is 8026 East Old Route 66, Williams, Arizona, 86046. The first neighbor on whom behalf I will be speaking of is a William Renfro. He owns the property directly across the street. His primary address is 7974 East Longbow Avenue. The second neighbor is an Antoinette Stuvenel. Would you like me to spell that?
You know, I want you to spell the last name of the previous individual you're speaking on behalf of. And yeah, just go ahead and spell the names and state your husband's name again for the record. And then just proceed on like you're doing. You're doing fine.
Sure. My husband's name is Stephen Knight, and that is Knight with a K. And that is S-T-E-E-N. And the William Renfro is R-E-N-F-R-O. The second neighbor is Antoinette, and Stuvenel is spelled S-T-O-U-V-E-N-E-L. And she is located at 7691 East Pittman Valley Road. The third neighbor are the Ranchers, and they are located at 6254 East Deer Farm Road. They requested to be called the Ranchers and not to utilize first names. If that does not please the commission, I understand that was their request.
Well, do they have, we need names. This is a public hearing.
I understand that, and I requested it, and they chose the Ranchers. So if you would like me to not speak on their behalf, I understand.
Yeah, this is a public hearing and we need names. We need full names. We need full addresses of people that are going to participate. So now you are down to speaking on behalf of you, your husband, Mr. Renfro, and so maximum of 10 minutes, maximum of 10 minutes. You've got Mr. McNeely, please start the clock, and please proceed, Ms. Knight, with your comments.
Thank you. This issue, I believe, is simple in that we cannot meet finding number one. Finding number one states that the proposed conditional use is consistent with and conforms to the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive or area plan for the area. One of the most important aspects of the Parks Area Plan is the commitment to preservation of the neighborhoods and the recognition that Parks has smaller communities or neighborhoods within it. The Parks Area Plan is very specific that these individual communities have their specific character, of which Pittman Valley is one of them. On page 10 of the plan, it says the following, and I quote, "Development proposals shall be considered in context of existing neighborhood character and shall only be approved if compatible with and not detrimental to such character. Neighborhood-based public input shall be strongly relied upon to define existing neighborhood character and the appropriateness of development proposals." Pittman Valley's neighborhood character is described on the plan on page 69 as, quote, "rural, remote, and quiet," end quote. The residents felt then and now that Pittman Valley's rural characteristics need to be, quote, "preserved and enhanced." Allowing this amendment will change the character of the neighborhood by bringing in more traffic to an otherwise quiet area and commercial business to a residential neighborhood. The second area of the plan I'd like to focus on is the no commercial business provision within Pittman Valley. This can be found on the Parks Area Plan, page 59, where it says, quote, "Future commercial development in the vicinity of the Pittman Valley interchange shall be limited to the existing commercially zoned property, the Quality Inn, which is now Kadampa, at the southwest quadrant of the interchange. No commercial uses shall be permitted in the general zone at the Pittman Valley interchange under the 500-foot rule. The standpipe in question is located on a parcel that is zoned as general and falls outside of the 500-foot zone rule. Recently, the property to the south of the parcel in question, south of 66 and in front of the standpipe, inquired about a commercial business permit. I'd like to note that this property is the one owned by William Renfro, on behalf of whom I'm speaking of. Mr. Renfro inquired with the county about a commercial business at this parcel location. The county discouraged Mr. Renfro from continuing to move forward to submit a request for this commercial business based on the above stated 500-foot rule. And for the county's reference, his parcel number is 203-17002 Bravo. The comprehensive plan highlights how commercial development occurs at the interchanges themselves, not down the road from them. This is a quote from the county comprehensive plan. It says, "This comprehensive plan and the 9 area plans encourage locating commercial development at major intersections. The property in question is located half a mile down the road from the interchange, which is over double the distance of 500 feet. Additionally, the landowners used to own the parcel that was directly next to the interchange. And at this time, it has been sold to a different landowner, which the county noted as an ADOT land, which is actually owned by a private road company. To continue, the parks plan is very straightforward when it comes to the expectation of future commercial development. It must meet the above rule or it will not be permissible. If the county upheld this rule for a neighbor at the same distance from the interchange, then my expectation and hope is that the commission would do the same for this conditional use permit amendment. I understand that some people may consider this CUP a public utility and not a commercial business. However, I think a public utility is one that is based on need. The residents of Pittman Valley are not the ones who will be utilizing this utility. Residents of neighboring communities, including Parks Proper, Sherwood Forest, and Williams, would need to drive into Pittman and then drive home to their respective communities. I do not consider residential water haul to be a, quote, neighborhood-oriented use when it would not be used by the residents of the neighborhood. In the January 6th study, Madam Chair, you requested to know where people lived who were for and against this amendment. The map I created was an attempt to provide a visual aid to answer your question. I understand that this public hearing needs names and addresses and official opinions, and my map was not meant to provide an alternative to that. It was meant to merely answer the question of where people are located with their opinions. And if that map was not received well, I apologize. I would like to note that through the effort of myself and another community members, there are about 40 landowners in Pittman. And through our ground truthing, we do believe there are about 31 community members who are opposed to this this amendment. We faced a lot of difficulties in getting our community members onto the Zoom or telephone call format as they were not comfortable with it. And I understand that it is based on who shows up that matters. Additionally, I think it is important to note that our serious speeding issue on both Route 66 and Pittman Valley Road, the standpipe is located on 66 and Pittman Valley Road is the main road south of the interstate that the residents of Sherwood Forest would utilize to come and access the residential water haul. These two roads face a significant speeding issue from both everyday traffic to the significant increase of traffic from OHV vehicle usage in the summer. And in the winter, we have a tremendous increase in traffic from snow players who park along the road to play in the snow. There's a Forest Service snow play area just a mile up the road, and our traffic increase is dramatic. This creates a very unsafe condition. And additionally, the Forest Service and County Sheriff Department just did a joint task force due to the excessive speeding of the logging trucks in the area. I believe that the amendment would create additional traffic to create an unsafe condition that would negatively affect the safety of the community, the local children, and the wildlife. And lastly, this issue has already been denied by the county once. And I'd like to read a couple quotes from an Arizona Daily Sun article about the county's previous decision to deny residential water haul usage. In a March 26th article in 2015, author Emery Cohen says, she quotes both Art Babbitt and Matt Ryan. Both are quoted in saying how this amendment does not meet the area plan goals. Their quotes are as follows. From Supervisor Art Babbitt, quote, what this comes down to is, does the expanded use of retail sales fit with the park's area plan and the vision and values enunciated in this plan, end quote. And from Supervisor Matt Ryan, the plan mandates that the area remain rural and is pretty explicit about not allowing other uses around the highway interchange, end quote. I would like to not go down the road of the violations, but as a neighbor who lives across the street, in the 5 years that we have lived here, we have seen many commercial water haulers stop at this location, specifically going to the KOA that is down the road. Myself and other neighbors in the last 5 years have sent many documented pictures of commercial water haulers pulling from this site when it was not in the previous CUP to do so. We very much understand that fire department usage is allowed. My husband and I are actually both firefighters and we respect that need. It's the commercial water haulers from the KOA that myself and other community members were concerned about previous conditional use permit grievances. It is for these reasons we ask the commission to once again deny the amendment for residential water haul from what is now the Cerna family standpipe. That is the end of what I have to say. My neighbor is with me. Their internet was not working. If that is all that the commission and Madam Chair you have for me, I'd like to turn it over to my neighbor who would like to speak on his own behalf utilizing my Zoom.
So, Madam Chair, we're at under 30 seconds left on the 10 minutes for Ms. Knight.
Right, and I am done. My neighbor would just like to use my computer for his own 3 minutes. Am I allowed to pass the computer to my neighbor?
So let's get Chair Ontiveros back so she can recognize who from the public she will recognize as speaking. So Chair Ontiveros, I'm seeing you as muted in case.
Okay, yes, and I'm unmuted. And what I wanted to do is, Ms. Knight, can you still hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what I'd like to do is offer some clarification. When I asked at the previous meeting for Mr. McNeely to have a map showing where the residents were that were in opposition, what I had envisioned was them speaking at the public meeting and being able to reference their property. The other thing, Mr. Renfro, that you did speak about, we've got a situation of a hearsay situation because Mr. Renfro told you know what I mean? So it's going to be an orderly meeting, but I'm just going to say that I wanted to offer the clarification because I realized that your heart was in the right spot in preparing that map. It did not cause a problem, but I will not take it into consideration. So I'm speaking on behalf of me in my decision-making process. And I will recognize the next individual. They can use your computer and they can state their name and address. And once that is stated, Mr. McNeely, please start the 3-minute clock.
Okay.
With a 1-minute warning. Okay, please proceed.
Good evening, Commission and Madam Chair. My name is Cody Slim at 8058 East Old Route 66, Williams, Arizona 86046.
Okay, and now can we start your comments?
what concerns me about the water hauling, the standpipe, is the amount of traffic, like Mrs. Knight said. The amount of traffic that's going to be coming through here, and we have children around the community. And it draws a concern for all of us, just with the, like I said, the amount of traffic. When the interstate is shut down, all the 18-wheelers come through here at high rates of speed, and there's also some locals and people just passing through here on an everyday basis that come through here, and they do not obey the speed limit.
Okay. I would like to ask a question because traffic is going to come up. Where do you envision this additional traffic coming from?
From Sherwood Forest and parks as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Do those conclude your comments?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Slim. Ms. Knight, was there another neighbor at your house that needed to use your computer?
No, ma'am, that is all.
Okay, and Ms. Knight, where do you envision the traffic coming from? Sherwood Forest Parks and Williams?
Yes, ma'am, as the residents of Pittman don't need to utilize this residential standpipe, it would be people coming from the adjoining neighborhoods who need to haul water.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to move on to Daisy Howell. Ms. Howell, please state your name and address for the record, and then your 3 minutes will begin.
My name is Dallas Howell. I'm using Daisy Howell's computer because she's the Zoom one. My address is 12060 East Parks View Place, Parks, Arizona 86018. I am in opposition of this project for several reasons. Number one, the location. You're located in a rural residential area that's surrounded by families. The extra traffic, which is coming from outside of this rural residential area, is going to cause a public health safety to the people that are living in the rural residential area, that all the neighbors in that area get along and everybody does a good job of keeping everyone's small children safe, and the traffic is to a minimum. This will bring a lot more traffic from outside this area to this area and cause a health concern to the people. Number three, it doesn't comply with the parks area plan. It doesn't comply with the area use. And actually, number four, it doesn't comply with the parks area plan because I don't care what color you color commercial use. If you're selling something to somebody, you are commercial. I understand what they had to say, but I don't agree with that. And that's why I don't agree that this is this should be approved by the P&Z. Also, this has been denied before, just as recently as 2015. It should be denied again today. Thank you. I won't take up any more of your time. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Howell, for your comments this evening. Kelly Allen, I see your hand raised. Are you there? Kelly, if you're there, okay, there you are. I see you're unmuted. Please state your name and address for the record and then proceed with your comments. Okay, Kelly, can you hear me? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on. We will come back. I'm going to go ahead and move on to an individual named Cody. Cody, if you would like to state your name and address for the record, and please proceed with your comments.
Hi, my name is Cody Mortensen. I'm at 453 North Sherwood Forest Road, Williams, Arizona 86046.
Okay. Yes, thank you. And please proceed with your comments now.
In reading some of the agenda that was on the board earlier, I was looking at the pictures and it paints a pretty picture. It looks like nothing's really surrounding the area But just across the street between that and the freeway, there are homes all along there with kids living there. I myself live just across the freeway from the water tanks. We used to live on Pittman Valley Road, but now we live down on the corner. So now we get all the traffic from Sherwood Forest. On Pittman Valley Road, we were somewhat comfortable with our kids playing outside and whatever, but Sherwood Forest Road, the traffic, they fly by. And so that's a big concern. Also, I don't understand how selling commercially to individuals is any different. It seems like if I wanted to sell something out of my place to individuals, I guess I could start doing that as long as I'm not selling to a commercial person. But and as far as the noise, the water haulers from Sherwood Forest come by all the time our house, and they don't have small vehicles, and they're loud, and often you hear them go by and you run outside to see what's going on outside, and they're just big water trucks of individuals hauling their own water, going to get it from somewhere else. And so also, I feel for probably half the residents in the area because they're elderly and they don't understand how to do the technology. But they did write letters, I think, and I hope those are addressed because they've been here longer than any of us. They realize the importance of keeping this residential and rural, and they just they weren't able to get onto this technology. But in the meeting in 2015, when it was opposed by the Board of Supervisors and then again by the court system, they actually drove to the meetings and spoke up when they could, but they aren't able to do that now. So I hope that their voices are heard still. But I don't think that the utility is needed in our area, as we all have the water and the noise and the safety. My kids they ride their horses by there all the time, their bikes, they run by there, and it just doesn't seem like a safe idea. And it
Madam
doesn't
Chair,
go
we're
along.
under 20 seconds now for the speaker.
It just doesn't go with the parks community plan to keep this a rural residential area that we've all strived to get it. I didn't buy this property for that to happen. I didn't with an intention to have heavy traffic water hauling next to my house.
So, Madam Chair, the time's expired on this one. And Chair Ontiveros, looks like you're muted again.
I'm sorry about that. I am. Okay. I'm going to ask Maggie Knight, Mr. Howell, and now Cody to please take your hands down because you have been called on. And so I'm going to reach back out to Kelly Allen. Okay, Kelly, you're up. So go ahead and state your name and address for the record and proceed with your comments. Okay, we are not hearing you. We're not hearing you, Kelly. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move to Kevin Smith at this time. Kevin, if you can hear me, please state your name and address for the record and proceed with your comments.
Kevin Smith, and I, along with my wife, Elizabeth, informally, but Betsy, we have the house at 7217 East Smith House Road, Williams, Arizona, 86046. Can I confirm that you can hear me? This is my first big Zoom type deal.
Okay, it is very, very hard to hear you, Mr. Smith. You're coming in and out. I'm hearing about every other word that you're saying. Could you move closer to the speaker or somehow help?
If I have to, I can move much closer like I did just now, or I can try to jump to my wife's computer. Is this any better?
No, not really. You're just louder, but you're still coming in and out.
Okay.
If you would like to move to your wife's computer, I'm going to go to another individual, but I will come back to you so that we can hear your comments, okay?
Sorry, guys, but thank you.
Okay. I'm going to move to the individual that is under iPhone, Zale Delp.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. State your name and address for the record and then proceed with your comments.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, board members. My name is Zale Delp. My husband and I own the property in Pittman Valley. Our address is 520 North Good Lane. We are concerned about the traffic and lights that would be brought to our residential neighborhood with this commercial entity. It would be a safety hazard with all the extra vehicles hauling water in our residential area.
Ms. Delp, hold on for just a second, please.
Sure.
Ms. Smith, if you can hear me, would you please mute your phone right now because you're coming in on Ms. Delp's and we're having difficulty hearing her.
I totally apologize. I'm done.
That's okay. Okay, Ms. Delp, please continue. The last thing I heard was traffic. Please proceed from there.
I'll just start over. It was only a sentence in.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. We are concerned about the traffic and lights that would be brought to our residential neighborhood with this commercial entity. It would be a safety hazard with all the extra vehicles hauling water in our residential area. In Pittman Valley, we have children and adults that like to ride their bikes and horses for enjoyment. We would like to keep it that way and protect their activities. My husband and I are part of that group. We also would like to keep the congestion down on and off of our freeway access points and our frontage roads. Since we fought this project last time, Williams has added another water haul in front of Arizona, which is easy access to our residents that are without water, and also takes the stress off of Park's water haul if they should run low. Both of these water hauls are located in commercial areas, unlike this proposed water haul. If this is to pass, our question is this: what is the next commercial project to push their way into our residential area? And by what everybody is saying, under the premise of special use. To our knowledge, this project does not conform with the Parks Area Plan. Thank you guys for giving me our opportunity to voice our concerns. Done. Are you there?
So Chair Taveras, I'm seeing you. There you go.
Yes, I am sorry. I am really having trouble muting and unmuting tonight. Ms. Delp, thank you for your comments and for joining us this evening. And so now you can go ahead and mute and take your hand down. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Now I'm going to try Kelly Allen one more time. Kelly, can you hear me? Kelly? Someone with the last name Allen. Maybe Mr. Allen, Ms. Allen. Okay, I'm not, Kelly Allen, if you can hear me, we cannot hear you. I will take another comment and I will try one more time to come back to you. Kevin Smith, please unmute, state your name and address for the record, and then please proceed with your comments now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is this better? I'm really sorry.
Oh, that's much better. Now, are you Kevin Smith?
I am. Well, I'm, yeah, the spouse of Betsy Smith. So yes, I'm Kevin Smith.
Okay, are you coming in on Kelly Allen's phone somehow?
No, I have no idea who that person is. I'm sorry.
Okay, because you're Kevin Smith, but it shows that you're muted, but we're hearing you.
Well, I jumped across the office because you
Okay.
couldn't hear me.
Oh, that's Smith. I see you. Okay, got you. Okay, please proceed, Kevin. Sorry about the confusion. State your name and address, and please proceed.
I'm sure it's all my fault. So, Madam Chair and all, my name is Kevin Smith, and I, along with my wife Elizabeth, who goes by Betsy, we own the property at 7217 East Smith House Road, Williams, Arizona 86046. I also have been given the permission to speak on behalf of Thomas A. Carter under the Carter Living Trust, address 407 Good Lane, Williams, Arizona, 86046.
Okay, please proceed. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Mr. McNeely, start the clock and give a 4-minute time, give a 4-minute countdown.
I don't get my 9 minutes?
You know what? We'll review it at 5. Just get
That's
to the,
fine. I know you guys all want to go home and I get it.
yeah.
So let me do my best.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Mr. Smith, and I will be reasonable. Please, please.
You know what, that's what I'm asking. So first of all, I want to thank all of you hearing our concerns through these tough COVID times. And I want to remind you that while Zoom meetings are necessary and the safest way for us to communicate, it also takes away from the personal impact of us in front of each other. But at least we get to hear the hearts and the souls of our community and you, even if you can't feel them. I'm here to address the ongoing concerns over the continuing request for a conditional use permit application by the Cernas. It's my understanding that the applications are the same ones or very similar that have been applied for in the past and denied. Continuing to hear these requests purely are a waste of your time and funds. It seems to me the doctrine of res judicata could be applied here, and this matter should be dismissed immediately. Prior applications have been applied and denied. Why do you need to continue to have to review something that it's already been reviewed on? It's just something to think about at least. Today, I heard and Jess confirmed that some emails were not delivered until today and may not have been reviewed. It's a little disheartening being that ours was sent a long time ago. But further, how can we be sure that all letters and emails were delivered since that was a last minute delivery? In regards to the owners of the no votes on the map, most of us submitted emails and verified our addresses and to show who we are and the no votes. I didn't see any yes votes on that map. I ask no matter how you lean tonight, that you, if you have a question to deny this application, that you table a vote until you can be sure that all communities' voices have been heard. Next, I would like to thank Jex for his photos, which I will tell you do not show the accurate description of the area. The pictures omit other structures and new construction that is going on just south of the proposed site across I-40 and which will be impacted. Further, the photos I find very subjective towards the approval of this application. I challenge him and all of you to personally visit the site for yourself and see the growth and construction in the area before making this decision. It's my understanding that the parcel they are wanting to permit for does not qualify under current laws or codes. My understanding is this type of permit is supposed to be within 500 feet of the interstate and directly off the entrance and exit ramp. This parcel is not within that realm and is in the middle of a rural neighborhood. Granting this permit will increase traffic on our local frontage roads and would significantly increase the wear and tear on these roads, of which are barely maintained now. The size and weight of some of these trucks that are used for this type of operation are 10 times that of a normal passenger vehicle, roughly 66,000 pounds. The increase in that damage to our roads would endanger everyone who would use these roads, especially in times of rain and snow. Further, when plowing these roads, it would be easily foreseen that the blades could catch on these roads and create more damage. Who's going to pay for this? Increased traffic by allowing this application would bring more traffic to the residential areas and creates even more of a hazard. The residents in these areas enjoy the outdoors and are often seen riding bikes or horses or walking with or without dogs. The increased traffic and noise, not to mention the size of these vehicles, could easily startle an animal and could then startle a driver, causing them to lose control and damage property or worse.
So we're at 4 minutes, Madam Chair.
Okay.
If this is allowed, some drivers will choose to get access off the frontage roads versus down I-40. That means passing the KOA camp and the deer farm coming from the west. Both of these businesses host families with young children and is very close to the road, especially the deer farm. These vehicles also come from Parks exit and continue through their local neighborhoods, which there is a school very close to that road. Increased traffic in these areas does not support the risk reward factor of granting this permit. One injury or fatality is too many. I am totally against this permit and just want you guys to consider this wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. I've got a quick question for you. Where do you envision the traffic coming from?
Everything's okay. It really depends off of two things. And if you'll permit me to elaborate, I have actually had water hauled from my house, which is off of Good Lane, for years. And I have been told by those drivers that they know when, I'm going to give you 2 points, and I don't mean to be.
Oh, you know what? I already know what you're going to say. And I want to assure you that your letter, and the reason I know what I know you're going to say is because I read your letter.
Thank you. And I won't
okay.
reiterate it, and I won't take your time, but I appreciate the fact that you read my letter.
I do want to know, where do you envision the traffic coming from that's going to be coming into this neighborhood? That's my question.
They're going to come off of the exits of either Pittman Valley Road, the Parks exit, or over by the KOA camp.
Okay.
They want to come in and they're going to use the old Route 66. And some of them even prefer to come all the way from Williams on the back roads. And those roads aren't maintained until we get closer to town. And
okay, thank you. And okay, and you have answered the question. And I appreciate it. And again, I want to assure you that your letter was contained. In fact, the commission, I will state this for all of the public, we did receive the letters, and I can assure you that I read every one of them, including the letters that were received today.
Thank you.
So please know that. Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. And I believe we have one other individual by the name of Judy Gilliam.
Hi,
Ms.
Judy Gilliam.
Your name and address, and then just time 3 minutes, please.
Okay. 7748 Pittman Valley Road, Williams, Arizona, 86046.
Okay, and now please proceed with your comments.
Okay. Just a second, I had it all written and I lost it. Okay. This entity who has been trying to get this water system approved on Old Highway 66 has been doing this for quite a while. It's been represented. We were at the very first meeting that we had there at the tanks. There was information given to us that was said by her brother to not be true. So I kind of stand back a little bit. Many tankers have been filmed filling up and delivering to the KOA off the next exit to the west. They were these observations have been submitted to your committee by Tom Carter and others. The pump station is not needed nor warranted by the landowners. It is on a very narrow 2-lane road that is not set up for commercial traffic at all. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gilliam. I'm going to try one more time to reach out to Kelly Allen. Kelly, can you hear me? Okay, at this point, I think we're going to have to proceed because I've tried to make attempt with Kelly Allen numerous times, and for whatever reason, we're unable to make a connection. So Kelly, one last time, can you hear me? Okay, not being able to make contact, I'm going to have to, I'll make another call to the public and ask if there is anyone from the public who wishes to address the commission on this case tonight. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close it to the public and open it up for commission discussion. Normally, as chairwoman, I allow the other commissioners to speak first at commission discussion, but tonight I'm going to begin this discussion for two reasons. Number one, this case is in District 3, the district I represent, and number two, I have a great deal of understanding and knowledge concerning water hull issues associated with standpipes. Let me start by stating that I have thoroughly read the staff report, the applicant's request, and all the letters both in support and opposition to this CUP. I have also reviewed the parks area plan. I'm familiar with this area and location. In analyzing this case, the first decision I had to make was whether this is a utility facility or a commercial project. It must be one or the other. It can't be both. I believe this is clearly a utility facility, and here's why. I would like to draw to the commission's attention tonight's first item on our study session agenda for applicants that may be eligible for administrative renewal by the Community Development Director, specifically case number CUP 20-069. This is a request by Parks Waterhole LLC for administrative renewal of a conditional use permit for a water standpipe, and in parentheses, it is considered utility facility in parentheses. This commission earlier this evening gave our blessing for this case to be renewed administratively as a utility facility. Because tonight's applicant is requesting the exact same use, I don't see how this commission can view it as anything except a utility facility. Parks Waterhole sells water from a standpipe for a fee. I think it's important to point out that we all pay for our water, and water, gas, and electric are considered utilities. In water hull areas contrasted with city hookup, it's simply the distribution of water that's different. Water is a utility, not a luxury. And all that said, this commission operates on precedent, and we cannot be arbitrary in our decision. So I'm interested to hear if the other commissioners feel that this is a commercial use tonight, and if so, how it varies from the utility facility that is exactly the same. The next thing that leads me to believe that this is a utility facility, in the zoning ordinance, water standpipes are listed as a public, quasi-public use, not a commercial use. And no matter how many times it has been said that this is a commercial use, it doesn't make it true. The parks area plan, we all know this, states that proposed water development projects, commercial wells, et cetera, that serve the local community shall receive favorable consideration by the Planning and Zoning Commission if compatible with surrounding neighborhoods and not detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare. I agree with staff's analysis that was contained in their staff report, that the applicant's request to limit standpipe access to sale of water to private individuals could be operated with conditions without adverse impacts on surrounding properties and consistent with the parks area plan. The applicant has stated that they will not sell to commercial vehicles. So all of the public input that we got tonight regarding the commercial water delivery trucks, they're still gonna be there. And that's what I want this commission to understand. Those water delivery trucks are still gonna be there. They're just not gonna be filling up at this location. They're gonna be hauling from a farther water source, but they're still gonna be there. They're not going anywhere. In these rural communities that are under the umbrella of the parks area plan, many of the residents have to haul their own water. You guys know this, or pay a water delivery service. There are no city hookups for water or gas, and so you see lots of personal vehicles with tanks and or trailers hauling their own water, or you see the water delivery trucks making their way up and down the roads into neighborhoods in these communities. They're not going anywhere. You also see propane trucks up and down the roads in these neighborhoods too, because there is no natural gas. Trucks all the time. I mean this, I'm going to say this next part, and I mean it to be well. Pittman Valley is a wonderful place, and I want all the residents to know that. I like Pittman Valley. But it is not a quiet little neighborhood in a pristine location. It has the east and westbound lanes of I-40 running through it with semi-truck traffic and associated noise all day and all night, 365 days a year. Route 66 also has local traffic, water delivery trucks, propane trucks, water haul traffic, and tourism traffic for the people that want to drive on historic Route 66. There is an ADOT laydown yard approximately a quarter mile away from the applicant's location that adds to the truck traffic on Route 66, and there's a cottage industry in the neighborhood. I think the applicants have been very good neighbors by allowing Ponderosa Fire Department use of their water free of charge. That is a benefit to the entire community, and I think the applicant should be commended for this. The two main points of opposition are due to groundwater withdrawal, which this commission cannot, and that's in capital letters, cannot consider, and development of a commercial use. Since this is not a commercial use, the points of opposition related to these issues do not apply. And in many of the comments that we heard from the public tonight, they talked about traffic coming in from Parks, from Williams, from Sherwood Forest. I can see it coming in from Sherwood Forest, and I know this area well. But what I will tell you is that people are like cows when it comes to a water hole. They're going to go to the closest water hole. They're not going to pass by. They're not going to drive from Williams to Pittman Valley to get their water. Anybody in Parks that drove from Parks to Pittman Valley to get their water, it would only be because it's closer. You're not going to have people going there. They're going to go to the closest water hole. Now, this is a point I want to make because I know this area. When they're talking about Sherwood Forest residents coming to fill up there, I can see that. If you guys know where Sherwood Forest is, okay, it's on the south side of the eastbound lane of I-40, and there's an overpass that comes from Sherwood Forest into that hits Route 66. When they come off of that, they're going to take a left, and they're going to go to the water hall, fill up, and then come back down and get back on. But I submit to you that that the traffic, I believe it was Cody that mentioned that she hears these trucks, this traffic running all the time. If they're not getting it from the pit, if they're not getting it from the applicant's water or standpipe, they're still coming by there to probably get it from Parks, I would assume. That's probably the closest facility. So whether this, the point I'm trying to make is whether this is approved tonight or not, there's still going to be water haul traffic. There is still going to be delivery trucks going by. You're never going to get rid of those. But I don't think that you're going to have an influx of incoming traffic that's really not already going by there. I think traffic is going to be negligible. And so I'm going to go ahead and just leave it at that. But unless there is a convincing counter argument to what I have laid out here, I will be voting to approve this CUP tonight. And that ends my comments. And so Commissioner Ruggles, you're up next.
Thank you very much for the hot seat again. Okay, I am going to have to say that our chair has addressed every single point that I would have gone forward with the discussion and addressed, with a very minor exception. The one thing about this, I have visited the site. I was there when the last CUP for this site came up in 2015. I will say that one thing about it, and that is access from Old 66 is very easy. There are no visual impairments to that whatsoever. You can see traffic coming both ways when exiting that site without a problem. And the only other thing I would say is the question came up about the roundabout around the actual water tanks and the facility that accompanies them. That was a part of the site plan that was presented to this commission and also the Board of Supervisors in 2015. With that going on to property that is also owned by the applicant, I have no problem at all. Now, essentially, beyond that, I can contribute nothing to this. Our chair has addressed the issue of what is a utility and what is a commercial use, and I could not agree with her more on that. And as a result of this, I look at it the same way. I can make the findings, and at this point, I see no reason to look at it and say anything other than I would vote for approval of this. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Ruggles. Commissioner Williams, you're up.
I also see this as a utility, and for that reason, I can also make the findings.
Okay. Commissioner Walters?
Chairman Ontiveros, I think you laid out this entire situation very clearly. The standpipe has been here since 1988, and I think it's a real benefit to the area to have water that close. The cost of everything for people living rurally is severely impacted with the cost of water, and the further they have to go, the more cost that there is. I could find this. I make the findings for this and I approve it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Walters. Commissioner Clifford?
Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. It is a utility. We do have to pay for our water. I just would like some clarification on a couple things. In their application, and Jess had stated in his briefing that it was going to be for residential water hauling only. And in their description of the permit request, they are looking for a limited commercial sales. Is that limited commercial sales going to be dropped out of their application and it's only going to be residential? Or are we considered a residential water hauler as a commercial water hauling company?
I see what you're saying.
Can I get clarification on that? And also, in a letter that was sent to the Cernas, and Mrs. Cerna replied to this letter that they are going to restrict it to 6 to 10 trucks, commercial trucks a week. And if we're going to do this for residential water hauling only, we need to make sure that it is strictly for residential hauling.
Commissioner Clifford, I really hate to interrupt you. But I was very clear to the people in the public, very clear, that the discussion, the chat was for help if you were having some kind of a technical issue. I have Kelly Allen. Let's see. Now, Kelly, your comments are appropriate. Judy Gilliam, I'm going to call you out. Your comments are completely inappropriate and uncalled for right now, and they're not going to be. I'm not going to have it. Okay, so no more comments there, please. This also, there is a comment by Kelly Allen regarding water. I could not have been clearer that no discussion regarding groundwater would be allowed. So that's my admonition, and I really mean it, folks. Get off of the chat board. This isn't going to be accepted. Commissioner Clifford, please go forward, and I am sorry that I had to interrupt you. I do understand your first question. Please expound on the second one, because I do want to be sure you're heard.
I want to make sure that this is strictly going to be a residential water standpipe and no commercial water haulers will be purchasing water there and reselling it for a profit at residential houses or commercial properties. Because if they fill up a truck there, take it to the KOA, they have to get reimbursed for fuel. And I as a business owner, I understand there's overhead. If we're going to approve this as a residential water haul only, and obviously they're going to be using it on their vineyard, from what I understand it as to what they are saying, we need to make that clear in their application and who is going to follow that up.
Okay, Commissioner Clifford, I think what we can do, if you read the recommended conditions of approval, number 1 states the use of the property shall be restricted to serving private individuals, period. Commercial water haulers and commercial vehicles are prohibited. Do you find that ambiguous at all, where that would need more clarification? Because I understood that sentence to mean exactly what you're trying to say.
I understand that perfectly. I am looking at their application that they put in, and they have, and looking for limited commercial sales, which I would like to have stricken out of their application, because if we approve this and a lawyer comes back and says, well, you approved their application which says looking for limited commercial sales, now they can have a limited access to commercial vehicles coming in there and getting water. So all I'm asking for is, can we have that stricken from their application, from their permit request?
I don't think we can, because their application is their application. Where this commission deals with it's a conditional use permit. It means and it's a use permit that is conditioned. Regardless of what's in their what would you say, their application, the conditions that are put forth by this commission, that is what they have to abide by, not what they asked for. You know, they can ask for the moon in their application, but it's only the conditions that this commission approves that they're held to.
Yep.
And that's
I
why
understand. Okay.
Now, condition number 1, if you read that really thoroughly, if you feel that adequately addresses your concern, or if you feel that it might need modified in some way, because we're a commission.
Nope. Now that you cleared it up, and I just wanted that clarification that what we are approving here in the 4 conditions will override that commercial, looking for a commercial, a loophole to get commercial vehicles in there.
Okay. No, I don't think condition number 1 to me is ambiguous at all. I think it is about as straightforward as you can get. And just for clarification, there's actually 8 conditions, Commissioner Clifford. Flip your page over and make sure you've seen those too.
My cursor likes to go crazy and just goes all over the place here. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That clarified the question that I had, and I can make the findings to approve this. I just want that commercial aspect of commercial haulers clarified again.
Right. No, absolutely. And good point. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Clifford. Okay, Commissioner Best.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question, first of all, what's the time limit on this?
It's 5 years. It is to expire, and this is in condition number 8. The use permit shall be valid for a period of 5 years to expire on January 27th, 2026.
Thank you very much. And I apologize. I broke my own rule and did not print as much as I should have.
That's okay.
And in my struggling mind, it is standard operating procedure for the city, the county, to receive complaints based on a CUP. And complaints are recorded. So when we get to 5 years out and we are at a renewal of a CUP, we can look back and see if the conditions have been met. Is that correct, Mr. McNeely?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Best, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually the same system as our permitting system, SmartGov system. When we have complaints filed against a property, it goes into that system. As was discussed earlier this evening, there's no open complaints. We don't see any when you do a query of this property.
Okay, thank you. So I'm uncomfortable with this for a couple of reasons. Number one, nobody showed up in favor of it from the neighborhood. I do accept that it is a utility. It's been there a long time. So it's kind of a tough one for me. I think that I can make the findings if someone will help me and define the customers of this enterprise as residential end users. Because you could get into an argument about the current language. There might be a commercial end user who, like the KOA down the street, but residential end user, I think, says exactly that. That's a guy in his pickup truck with a tank. It is not a great big 10,000 gallon truck. So if you could help me and stick that in there, I don't have the conditions in front of me.
Okay, let's go over condition number 1 again. And this is what Commissioner Clifford was talking about. Condition number 1 states, the uses of the property shall be restricted to serving private individuals. Commercial water haulers and commercial vehicles are prohibited.
Well, if you define that as residential end user, does that mean that Joe can go and pick up water for Jim?
If he's in a residential truck, people do that. People do that, Commissioner Best. I see it all the time. They don't have a pickup truck.
Can one person go pick up for 4 people in a bigger truck?
No, it's commercial water haulers and commercial vehicles are prohibited. So I guess you could have a bigger residential truck. There's bigger residential trucks, but there is a weight on a commercial vehicle. And Commissioner Walters, can you help me? Is it 66, 80,000 pounds? I don't even know what it is.
So, Madam Chair, actually, if it's of any help, this is just, so the zoning ordinance defines commercial vehicle, and that's what this would reference to in condition number 1. And the zoning ordinance definition of commercial vehicle is any licensed and operable bus, truck, or truck tractor or other vehicle having a gross vehicle weight of 26,000 pounds or more, not including water hauling apparatus for purposes of transporting water for personal use. So that pound limit then doesn't apply to vehicles, the individual with a pickup truck that with their tank happened to exceed that weight. So that's the definition of commercial vehicle in the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Well, a pickup truck full of water can't be more than like 10,000 pounds, right? Well, you get up to 26,000 pounds, that's a little fire truck, isn't it? I mean, I like the words residential end user. And what I think is that because there are other sources nearby, that this is not going to be used very much by residential end users. There's a source in Parks and there's a source at Arizona. I don't see a huge parade of people coming down and increasing traffic as long as it's just Ma and Pa going to get water for their house individually. So if that's the way that's written, fine. But if it's not written that way, if somebody can show up with a 26,000 pound truck and then add water to it and making it, 60,000 pounds, that's not what I'm envisioning at all. And so that's one little issue I have. The other is that part of this is on an adjacent property, which is not listed in this case in the CUP. And that's technical, but it's not trivial. So if we can add residential end user, I would be happy. And I would simply say to the folks listening, if you see somebody who is a commercial water hauler, take a picture and send it to Mr. McNeely and complain, because what we're all talking about here is pickup trucks with a tank or pickup trucks pulling a tank. We are not talking about big trucks, except for fire trucks. Does that make sense?
Well, Commissioner Best, condition number 1 states again, commercial water haulers and commercial vehicles are prohibited. And Mr. McNeely just gave the definition in the ordinance for that.
Then I can't vote for this, because a 26,000 excuse me, pound truck is not what I envision for this neighborhood. I envision residential end users.
Okay. And so does that conclude your comments?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Burton?
I think everybody pretty much covered my thoughts on this. I was wondering about weight for trucks, and I was just doing a little Googling, and even the F-350s, they're somewhere in the neighborhood of 8,000 pounds. So I kind of would like to set a weight limit, but I'm not sure if we can actually do that. Because in theory, the roads are rated for a certain weight. I have no idea what that driveway is rated for as far as the ability to handle a certain weight, but obviously it can, because the fire trucks use it. So, but I'm not sure if it would give peace of mind to the residents if we put some kind of truck weight limit, but I don't know if that's something that we can actually do. So, but I mean, either way, I can make the findings, but that is something that I just had a question about.
Okay, let me throw this out, Commissioner Burton, to you and to Commissioner Best, okay? Because I get water hauling. I live in a water haul area. I see all kinds of vehicles that haul water. I see Ford F-550s that have tanks that are private individuals that haul tanks, because some people have bigger cisterns than others. We have no way of knowing what the cistern size of the individual that is the residential hauler is going to be pulling from there. There are 5,000 plus size cisterns that are filled. So if you have a Ford F-550, which I have seen that, people pulling in, it's definitely private. How help me out here, Commissioner Best and Commissioner Burton, how would we regulate that? We've said no commercial vehicles, no commercial water hauling. whatsoever. And the intent of that was for residential use, for residential end use.
Madam Chair, I'd be comfortable if we simply said serving private residential end users.
Okay, so right now it says the uses of the property shall be restricted to serving private individuals. It already says that.
I don't know the definition of that, but private residential end users is pretty crystal clear to me, anyway. It means we're serving residences, residence by residence. We're serving the end user.
I'm good either way. So
Okay. Okay, so Mr. McNeely, you were the one that wrote this condition. Can you chime in on this, please?
Madam Chair, absolutely. I think Commissioner Best's recommendation to further clarify this to be residential end users just further clarifies it. I think the intent of private individuals, what we wrote into the proposed conditions in the staff report, we're envisioning the same thing that Commissioner Best is envisioning.
Okay. Okay, and as far as regulating, I think my concern was when Commissioner Best told the community, get your cameras out. They probably will now. And how's this going to be regulated?
Well, so Madam Chair, Commissioners, certainly compliance management is something that has to be done within our department. It's dealt with on a complaint basis, and the objective of compliance management is to get property owners in compliance. That's the objective. We currently do not have our compliance management position filled. We actually have the inspection supervisor, kind of dual-hatted, also covering that position. When we get a complaint through our system, then we follow through on that complaint until we close out the complaint. And the goal is always to get property owners in compliance.
Okay. Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may, I am not advocating harassment, and let me make that clear to the neighborhood.
Okay.
I am advocating that if there is a clear and present violation of this, and it should be pretty obvious if a monster commercial truck shows up and gets filled up, go ahead and complain. If it's a big guy that looks private, if it's an S550 or whatever, we all have to be reasonable. As I say, it's difficult for me when we're approving something in a neighborhood and the only people that we're hearing from in the neighborhood are against it. That puts personally me in a tough position. There shouldn't be harassment, but people should understand how a P&Z works. They get renewed based on compliance, and both the applicant and the neighborhood should be good neighbors and should get along and should play it straight.
No, and I agree. When you said that, the reason that I brought that up, when you said get the cameras out, I do not want a private individual pulling in there with a Ford F550, filling up his tank and being stalked with cameras. I don't want to see that go on. So thank you for your clarification that you are not promoting harassment. Okay, so why don't we just go ahead, modify condition number 1 to say the uses of the property shall be restricted to serving private residential end users, period. Commercial water haulers and commercial vehicles are prohibited, period. Are we all on the same page there?
That sounds great to me, Madam Chair. Commissioner Best.
Okay, then I think, go ahead.
Madam Chair, can I know we're in commission discussion here.
Oh, sure.
Okay, Sat. If I take my 1,500 gallon water tank that's on the back of my international 2.5 ton truck in there to fill my 2,500 gallon cistern, my 1,500 gallon water tank is going to be filled with 12,450 pounds of water. My truck and tank weigh another 10,000 pounds. So I'm at, you know, I'm right there at that 26,000 pound limit. So,
Okay, and I'm fine with that as long as you're.
I'm still not a commercial vehicle. I'm still a private vehicle.
As long as you're a private residential end user, fine.
But if I pull up in there in a tandem axle 2.5 ton international diesel truck with a 1,500 gallon tank that says nothing on it, how are they going to know that I'm not a commercial hauler? Because not all commercial haulers.
There's no way to know. I think if this is abused, they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, I'm counting on everybody to be reasonable. I don't want anybody to go and storm the Capitol. You know, we should all just take a deep breath. My discomfort here is citing something in the neighborhood where the neighborhood says we'd rather not have it. And so as long as this is really residential end users, I'm okay. And then let's let it play out. And in 5 years, we'll take another look at it. I don't think anybody should harass anybody. I think everybody should act in good faith. This is, I think, crystal clear. And, you know, if most people aren't going to have the truck you're describing, they're going to have what most of us see driving around. If occasionally a really big truck pulls in there, okay, occasionally that's going to happen. Most of the time, it's going to be people in the normal size trucks that we see. So I think if we have good language and good intentions on all sides, we'll be fine.
Okay, so we have already agreed that we're going to modify condition number 1. Again, the uses of the property shall be restricted to serving private residential end users. Period. Commercial water haulers and commercial vehicles are prohibited. Period. You guys, I think that's the best we're going to be able to do. So with that, why don't we go ahead and get a motion in a second and move to a vote?
Madam Chair, I make a motion.
This is Chairman or Vice Chairman Walters. I make a motion to approve CUP-20-028 as presented.
I'd like to second that. Thank you, Jim. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't hear Don at first.
Okay, all right. I have a motion by Commissioner Walters and a second by Commissioner Clifford to approve CUP-20-028 with modification to condition number 1 to state the uses of the property shall be restricted to serving private residential end users, period. Commercial water haulers and commercial vehicles are prohibited. The other conditions stand as stated. All of those in favor, please say aye. Commissioner Ruggles?
Aye.
Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Walters?
Aye.
Commissioner Clifford?
Aye.
Commissioner Best?
Aye.
Commissioner Burton?
Aye.
And Chair Ontiveros, I also vote aye. CUP-20-028 has been approved unanimously with the modification to get to condition number 1. The final item on the agenda is a call to the public for items not on the agenda. Is there anybody in the public who wishes to address the commission tonight for items not on the agenda? Ms. Delp, are you raising your hand or did you just forget to put that down?
I raised my hand, but it's on your list. I just had a question, if that's okay.
You know what? We're
I
really.
mean, it's not, I'm not going to attack anybody. I just wanted to know if they don't comply, what's the rules? That's all I want to know.
Call the county. Call the compliance officer at the county.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Delp. Okay, seeing no one to speak for a call to the public for items not on the agenda, my clock shows 8:09 and this meeting is adjourned.